Ladies and gentlemen, this is history. It is episode 100 and the final episode of the Movie Club. We started off doing the show on Mondays, then we shifted to Fridays. We had Saturdays at some point. I think there was even a couple of Sundays for Oscar reviews and whatnot, but we are here, episode 100, Saturday Night Movie Club. It's all over after today. Yes, the show is going to end. Let me go ahead and introduce our guests who are joining us here. Our good buddy Rick Aragon is here. What was your favorite moment of 100 episodes?
I think it was when we watched Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, one of the great comedies.
That was movie night. That's not when. Oh, was that
okay. I think so.
I think a few movie nights did blend into it. Okay, so
yeah.
You may be
right. Yeah, that was hilarious. You guys completely missed the boat on that. That is comedy gold.
We were like borderline going to throw rocks at you at a certain point during that show.
It wouldn't be the first time that I get attacked for being truthful.
Rob Motto, what was your favorite moment of 100 episodes?
It's probably just a handful of moments that I was able to appreciate a movie and talk glowingly about it. So I'll throw, I don't know, Jaws, because I think we reviewed Jaws after it was playing in the theaters.
Was it 3D too? Was it 3D Jaws?
I don't think so. It was just Jaws, but I mean, it might have been. I saw it in like regular IMAX, but that was fun. It was good to kind of go back and forth with Sarah a little bit, whether the mayor was an idiot or incompetent or maliciously. And I mean, obviously, the wildfires kind of brings that back up. Whether it's negligence or incompetence or just greed or whatever. But anyway, yeah, that's probably my favorite moment. That was fun.
Well, Sarah, you've been around for about maybe 6 or 7 of the 100 episodes that we've done. So, what was your favorite moment this time here?
I definitely remember talking about Jaws. That was really fun, and I like doing the end of year stuff and kind of just catching up on what movies I missed.
Oh yeah, well, we're going to talk about a lot of bad movies we missed. That's certainly going to be a thing. And then Iron Oxide, who's finally back with us.
Yo,
how's it going?
Pretty good, man.
Well, considering the fact that you were only here for one of the episodes, which was last week, I guess that means that last week was your favorite moment.
Last week was great. Hey, even though I couldn't participate much due to some technical issues, I enjoyed listening to you guys. So I fought with OBS.
Someone who's just now joining the show right now is our good buddy, Comics Division. How's it going, Comics?
Doing good, man. How are you doing?
Doing pretty well. We're here to talk about the absolute worst movies that we had to sit through throughout the entire year, and there was a lot of them. Like there was actually more than we're comfortable with, I think is the saying here.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. There was a lot of garbage last year, so
yeah. I mean, I'm looking at it from the perspective of this. It's like I'm looking at what was my number one worst film of last year, which I believe was it wasn't Bros. It was another degenerate gay movie that was somehow even worse than Bros. And that was my number one movie of last year. And then I look at this year, my number one movie. I won't spoil it yet, but I'm thinking to myself, is it worse than Bros? Is it somehow even worse? And it's like the one thing I could say about Bros is that it actually felt like a movie. And my number one movie, worst movie of this year, didn't even feel like an actual movie. I could barely even qualify it as a film. That's how bad the film is altogether. But we'll get to that here in a certain subsect here. I know some of you guys bought lists. I know some of you guys wanted to really talk about some of the films that you guys didn't like here. So here's what we're going to do. I want to start this one off of Iron, because Iron, I want to get your takes on the worst films of 2024 and some of the films that you thought were absolutely abysmal. And then as this show goes on, we're going to build into even bigger lists, because like I said, for me, Rick and Rob, we had to narrow our list down to like only 10 movies and like 5 honorable mentions, which is very, very difficult. We easily could have gone on for longer than that if I chose to. But Iron, we're gonna go ahead and start this one off of you, because I know you have a few films that you want to talk about here. So let's go ahead and start with your.
And see, I actually feel sorry for you guys, because you actually took the time to go and see most of these movies by choice.
A lot of them.
Why? I have become much more selective on how I'm going to spend my money, and I'll go see a real piece of crap if I just know it's like, oh, this is going to be such a train wreck that I'll actually enjoy talking about.
I want to correct something real quick, Iron. Some of these movies we were forced to watch by Jacob.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, I would have only chosen to see maybe, and I said this last week, maybe 5 movies that I saw this year.
Yeah, I mean, if we didn't have this show, it'd be much, much rougher. The actual movies I go out to go to.
Yeah, I'll be honest.
To be
with you,
fair,
there's certain movies I do want to see, knowing they're bad, just for the hilarity of it. You know, I mean,
right.
But that's the problem. Like with the movies on this list, and this is something that I've shifted to over the last few years. It's like the movies that are on this list aren't even so bad; they're actually good. Like they're just bad. Like I just pick the most humorless, joyless films. Like you just walk out of there, you just feel like a bad person after sitting there for like 2 hours. Because like to me, those films are far more worse than, let's say, a film like Madam Web, which I think is probably the closest thing that's so bad is actually good that we got throughout the entire year.
Now, my list consists of mainly movies that I chose to see because they were so bad for that reason. Some of them were actually so bad that they were kind of a letdown. Like, wow, that wasn't even good enough to laugh at. I'm not even going to think about that again. And for that, I'm going to throw in Land. It was just like, okay, this was just dumb and forgettable. Madam Web, of course. Though there was enough in there that I could enjoy making fun of it for a little bit longer term. Now, there's a couple movies on here that I did see out of anger because I knew what they were going to do was going to just send me off over the edge, because I either love the franchise or I love the original. Those two are Joker 2, because that was such a huge but the first one, it was intentional. It was just some spiteful crap, and they really went so far out of their way to just kick everyone that enjoyed the first one right in the face. And the next was there is really.
You replayed that one again because your audio's kind of like circling in and out.
The same problem again.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man.
Not,
yeah.
I know it's not you. I've been having some audio issues. Okay, so the two that actually angered me were The Crow and Joker 2.
Yeah. Those were pretty solid picks.
Yeah, because The Crow, it was just, there was zero appreciation there for what came before it or even the source material, and Joker 2 was a middle finger.
Yeah, I was gonna say like The Crow was probably more of an unintentional spit in the face to the
Exactly.
fan base. Well, Joker 2 was a much more direct spit in the face to the fan base. Like,
Oh,
no question.
it was completely intentional. The rest of the movies on my list were just comedically bad. The American Society of the rest. Madam
Magical
Web.
Negroes.
Madam Web. Thank you. You can say it. I can't.
Can.
Madam Web.
Jesus.
I enjoyed Madam Web for how bad it was. I was actually hoping it would be worse. And then I got Argyle on my list, and really, the last one I have is Civil War, and that one was just it was such a smelling of its own farts.
Like I said, that movie, Civil War, definitely split up this group. I think Rob liked it a lot more than I did. I didn't hate the movie, but like I said, there's just you got to have an ideological stance in a film where you're telling me a movie where California and Texas are joining forces against the greater United States and the president.
I'm with Rob on this. I don't think you need it. I think you just need to imagine the scenario where it's totally fiction. You don't need a literal like, oh, California and Texas join forces. It's fantasy. It's not supposed to be quite literal. The fact that so many people demanded that it be literal is what
because it's taking part in like a literal United States of America. It's not like they're creating like the Hunger Games universe or something like that.
It's an
Still a
imagined.
hypothetical though.
Yes, it's an imagined America. That's why so many people insisted that the president was a Trump-like figure. I didn't see that. I actually saw more like Salvador Allende type figure who was about to be overthrown.
I'll agree with you there. I didn't see the president as being Trump, but I think that you do have to have some kind of logic to it. And the fact that this is made by a guy that is basically from Europe who doesn't understand American politics, that's, I think, the biggest issue with that film.
Yeah,
my problem was it thought that it was way smarter and more intellectual than it was.
Yeah,
that was my biggest problem.
One thing it definitely does is it shows you basically how crappy journalists are, and that was one thing a lot of people were like, "Oh, it makes journalists look like heroes." It's like, no, it makes them look like terrible people.
But was that intentional or unintentional? That's where I think the movie was smarter than I thought.
I mean, once again, and this is dealing with wartime, so it's like I understand why people would find this objectionable, but it's getting the shot. That's your job. Get the shot, regardless of who's in the way, regardless of what it means. Get the fucking shot. Okay, and now that may be a dehumanizing thing for some people. I mean, that's
guys. It's not
fitting for
like
that job.
It's not like the reporters in Civil War were, pinning clothespins to their jackets so that they could look more svelte. Okay, that's not what journalists do in real life. They don't want to just like appear, presentable.
And it could have been a lot more annoying about the journalists are heroes because we're running into war zones. It could have been sanctimonious, and it wasn't. But I will agree with you. Alex Garland is a Brit. He's from the UK. And he really doesn't have a good handle on our political system. But as a hypothetical Twilight Zone thing, I've said this last week, so I'm not going to go on here. But I did like it. I liked the execution of the idea, even if it was kind of loose. And some of the performances annoyed me. Some of the dialogue annoyed me. Wagner Moura, the Pedro Pascal lookalike, was the weak spot in the movie for me. But yeah,
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I didn't think it was like a terrible film, but it was ultimately forgettable and dumb.
It came close to cracking my top 10, but not quite there. But still, I thought it was an overall good movie. I mean, not perfect, but good.
So are those your list for worst films of 2024?
Yeah, because I want to be fair and just keep it to films that I actually saw this year.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of movies I can add just for movies I think are pretty bad, which we'll talk about here in just a second here. But let's go move over to our lady friend over here, Miss Sarah Hargett. How are you doing?
Okay.
Do you have a list of films that she had for us?
I have 5. I can do a honorable mention though. I'll do honorable mention of Red One because we watched that Christmas Eve.
And you found out it wasn't a Christmas movie?
No, I mean it was fun. Like I kind of expected what we got, so I was like, this is fine, but it's like not a good movie. But like I didn't hate it while I was watching it because I was expecting it to be what it was. So I was like not disappointed in it. So that's why
Keep
it doesn't get
expectations
an
low.
honorable mention. So I have Argyle. That one was very disappointing. Even though you all told me that it was terrible, and I still had to watch it because Sam Rockwell is in it, and I have to watch everything that Sam Rockwell is in. It was still very sad. I hated the parts where they were like he was doing the fight scenes, and then they would cut to Henry Cavill doing the fight scenes. I was like, no, keep Sam Rockwell in there. I like Sam Rockwell
You need
better
to
than Henry
justify
Cavill.
his paycheck somehow.
Yeah, but
It's Apple.
they should.
You got
I
unlimited
don't know.
money,
That whole
okay?
movie just
Apple's
did
fine.
not make sense.
Sarah, so let me ask you this before we move on to our next one. So my biggest sticking point with Argyle was that the whole film is basically presenting this, look, I like Bryce Dallas Howard. I'm not saying anything against Bryce Dallas Howard, but she is not in a super spy, nor is he an action star in any metric whatsoever. And I think that if they had made sense of the film, like she was a spy several years ago, but obviously she's been in civilian life, and she's kind of more of a housewife than she is anything else. Like now, I can kind of buy that
That's
into
what
it.
they were doing, right? I mean, they were kind of doing like the long kiss goodnight kind of thing with the
Until
character.
they got to the third act, where they just went like, so we're not even going to address the fact that this woman is in no shape to be kicking the butts of a bunch of Arabian people, let's just call it that way for the YouTubes, throughout the entire film. And then the whole, like I said, ballet, like ice skating scene. I was like, oh my god, they're doing it. They made her look like Jillian
dumb.
Bell in the second half in the film. And I was like, oh god, why'd you do this?
I was not even thinking about it that deep. Like the plot was like I was like, I don't even care at this point. By the time they were doing the twist, I was like, this is just stupid. But I did like the scene. It was after the ice skating scene where they were like in the hallway and like the colored smoke was going everywhere and they were doing like a dance scene, but it wasn't really dancing. I thought that was
Yeah.
hilarious. I
How did
actually
Sam
almost liked the
Rockwell
movie
lift
after
her?
that.
I mean, how did Sam Rockwell lift her? He's a
no.
short man, and she's not a svelte woman.
No,
Wires.
That was
I'm sorry.
Also
That
didn't
scene
really happen.
some Asia grade wire work there.
in the theater, that scene is exactly when my soul left my body. I was like, okay, this is one of the absolute worst. This is me saying this is one of the absolute worst movies of the year in February, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
surprisingly, it has held its place in my top 10 because I will not forget how torturous that theater watch was.
Yeah, my love for
Yeah, I
hatred
definitely
of
did.
Argyle is legendary now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know that scene was really bad, but it was like for me, I was like so like I just disconnected from it at that point that I was like, okay, here they're actually like doing something that's really dumb, but it's like funny at the same time. So I was like, there's a little bit to hold on to that's actually good because the rest of it was just really bad. All right, so next I have the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. That was kind of disappointing because I actually thought I was going to like it when I turned it on, and it ended up being really bland and
Yeah, it kind of was, wasn't it?
plotless and didn't go anywhere. And I felt like as soon as it ended, I was like, oh, I want to see the next movie, the next thing that they're going to do. That seems like it might be interesting, maybe, but oh
Henry
well.
Cavill strikes again.
Yeah,
Back to
he's
back
not
for
that
Cavill.
great, is he?
Yeah, I had
He's too
so
pretty to be able
high
to
hopes
act.
for that. I didn't bother after hearing enough people that I trust opinions on it. I was like, I
All the
paid way too
people
much this
that
year.
I trusted told me it was good for some reason. I was like, oh,
Oh, those liars.
Well, I mean, we told you Argyle was bad. You wouldn't go watch that anyway. So I mean,
well, I had to. Sam Rockwell is in it.
oh god,
You don't understand. I had to. I wouldn't have otherwise. Next I have Furiosa. Eh. I wasn't a fan of Fury Road either, but I like respected that like filmmaking wise because it was really
Yeah.
like visually impressive and the plot went over my head and I didn't care about it, but it was like cool to look at. And Furiosa was not cool to look at. Everyone's wigs were like really obvious and Chris Hemsworth's fake nose was just like staring me in the face the whole time, and I couldn't take him seriously. And I knew that it was going to end badly and that nothing good was going to happen to Furiosa, but she was still going to survive because we know that there's the
Of
next
course, she's going
movie.
to survive. Yeah, she's in
Yeah,
the next.
like
Right.
you just there's no stakes. Like they kept having like bad things happen and so many like bad situations build up, and you're like, I don't care because there's no stakes because I know that she's gonna live, but she's not gonna like marry her boyfriend or whatever, the guy that she was hanging out with and all that kind of stuff. Like he's obviously gonna die because he's not in the next movie, you know? So there's just like no like actual stakes there. And it was really unsatisfying. Like it went nowhere. It was way too long. All the stuff with her as a little kid was boring as heck.
It really
And
was.
I just
Yeah,
was like,
it took an hour
no.
to get to Furiosa.
hour.
Really.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she didn't even appear to like 50 minutes into her own movie.
What
Yeah.
what
And
I
then
just don't
even then
understand.
she was like, I like Anya Taylor-Joy, but she's just like so like I would almost rather
Bland.
see Charlize Theron do it. You know, it's like there's just like no
What-
reason for this movie to exist.
What I simply never understood is why cinema intelligentsia just rallies and calls this one of the great action films of the 21st century. There should be Best Picture, Best Supporting Actor for Chris Hemsworth. Why? What did they see that
Yeah.
we did not?
I know, though. It was so hammy and like dumb. I just couldn't take him seriously at all.
The
You mean
the
you didn't take-
overreaction actually made me want to like treat this movie harsher than it probably deserves, because I mean
Oh, yeah.
I would have included it in my top worst, you know, it's just there's so many. And
Yeah.
this is like, I'm sorry, it's a little old school, but this is like what film critics' jobs are. They're supposed to educate the public why they're wrong. Okay. So if everybody on Twitter, and I know Twitter didn't exist back when I was growing up reading movie reviews, but it's like if everybody and their mother's like, this is amazing and it deserves Oscars, and it's like it's a piece of shit movie that
Yeah.
like it doesn't even have the essential bones to make a memorable Mad Max movie, much less a memorable movie on its own. So
Yeah.
none of that worked for me. It took an hour to get to Anya Taylor-Joy. It's just not a very good movie. I mean, it's mediocre. It's not like I won't say it's a bad movie, but like there's so
Yeah.
many things you can nitpick.
I mean,
You know what
the
I mean?
mania,
And if you wanted to go there, you could say, yeah, this is not very good.
the mania
Like, it had-
around the first like Mad Max movie was so palpable. I remember a friend of mine's professional movie reviewer who literally submitted his review 10 out of 10, go see it. And that's what he submitted as professional review for Mad Max Fury Road. Like that's how much everyone was like, this is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen in my life.
I wouldn't say it was
Well,
like
it got
one of
at
the
least
greatest
Alan was,
movies
like,
I've ever seen. I thought
cohesive.
it was a decent chase movie. I mean,
But you
Yeah.
can see the
Like,
cracks
it
from
had
Fury,
one
Fury
good
Road.
feature.
yeah, you could. Well, I'm talking about
Has
Fury
more-
Road, not Furiosa. I didn't like Furiosa. I thought it was a garbage film.
Yeah, no, okay, because I was gonna say Fury Road, you could at least say like, okay,
Fury
you
Road
can
is what I
tell
was talking
them
about.
they took the whatever, the NASCAR chase aspect of it, and
Yeah.
you felt like they put that effort into it. This one, you can tell the green screen, you can tell the CGI. It's like
Yeah.
this is not impressive. I mean, if they wanted to make another movie to try to capitalize on the success, I understand, but we talked about the budget, the production budget, and the marketing budget of Furiosa. Remember those Super Bowl ads? I mean,
Yeah.
it absolutely cratered when it came out because nobody went to see it.
Well, yeah, there was like one person at the screening I went to besides myself. And there are people who are still upset that Fury Road lost Best Picture. It won 6, but why it deserved Best Picture, I don't know. But Furiosa was even worse, and just the obsession that so many people on the film X Twitter had for it. It was like, this is, brilliant, masterpiece, one of the great films. I mean, what film did you see?
I think they made that movie because, like I said, they were in such a bubble, everyone blowing up the first Mad Max movie or Fury Road, that they thought that there was going to be like this palpable, expectation for the second one that everyone was going to go run out and see it. And then when you go back, you look at the box office numbers for the first one, they're not nearly as impressive as you think that they are. And consider the fact you waited 9 years after that movie to where all the heat has pretty dissipated from that film. It's like you could have told that this was going to fail multiple times over.
Well,
so.
I think at the end of the day, I mean, Mad Max are fun, entertaining films, but I don't really think they were a huge box office draw. I mean, I don't remember what the numbers are for, oh God, what was the second one, or technically the third one?
Beyond Thunderdome.
Beyond Thunderdome, yeah, Thunderdome. I mean,
Tina.
and that's I mean, that was a great movie, but I don't remember how well it did. Honestly,
Well, it's kind of been more. This whole series has been. I don't want to say quite cult-like, but it's more. It's not like massive. Like it really has impacted the culture at large. And Fury Road, I almost felt bullied into giving it a positive review. But Furiosa, there's just no explanation as to why so many people still insist that it not making the short list for several categories in the Oscars is like a tragedy. It's not a tragedy.
Real quick before we go back to Sarah, I just want to let you guys know. So for the Fury Road movie that came out in 2015, it made $380 million on a $185 million production budget. So it wasn't even a box office success the first time around. So it shouldn't have been that big of a surprise that it didn't work the second time around. But
that's why they made the second one cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so next I have Uglies, which is just a cheap Netflix movie that I watched while I was on vacation.
I
And
just saw
there's
the
not
ad
really
for that.
much to say about it. You saw that one?
Yeah, put it to you this way. Have you seen any movie starring Joey King that has actually been good?
Who's Joey King?
The girl who was in she was in Ugly, she was in Bullet Train, she was in Wish Upon. Like she's
Was
been
that
in
princess movie? What's
the
the,
I just
princess.
watched Crazy Stupid Love yesterday, so yes.
Yeah, she's in all those terrible Netflix kissing booth movies. So that chick.
No, I think I saw Crazy Stupid Love, but I don't remember that, and I don't want to remember it.
She
It
was
terrible.
just the daughter. She had like one great line, and she
No.
was like really little.
Like I'll give you my
Yeah.
history with Joey King is that I went to a screening several years ago for a movie called Wish Upon, a movie that was supposed to be a horror film. That movie
I
was
love that
so
movie because
bad.
it's so funny. It's so funny. Like,
It
at
is
least
not supposed to
that
be
is
funny. That's the problem. Like everyone in the movie theater was like laughing hysterically throughout the entire film. And I was
Yeah.
like, this movie is
When
not
she
supposed to be a
got hit by the
comedy.
car.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
but still, Uglies was not that. Uglies was not funny. I was hoping that it would be funny because we were like watching it late at night, eating ice cream at the beach, and we were hoping that it would be like a bad, funny kind of movie, but it ended up just being like dumb. And I was like, this is stupid. And then it didn't even like wrap up the story because it wanted to have a sequel. So it was just, yeah, big no.
Yeah.
So-
Never end your movie by
and-
suggesting that there will be a sequel.
Yeah, it's always a bad idea. Never ends
Well,
well.
I guess it's based on a book or something that had a sequel, maybe, but I don't know. So last I have Godzilla X Kong versus Kong, whatever
Yep.
that's called.
The
Final
New
Empire.
Empire. I thought
Mhm.
did you say the Final Empire?
I don't know. I don't know what it's called. It's just the new
It's bad.
Godzilla Kong movie. Whatever it's called, that's the one. I don't like it. Stupid movie. I fell asleep.
I was going to put it on my worst stuff list until we got to the point where Godzilla literally suplexed King Kong onto a building. At that point, I was like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah. I think I missed that part because I fell asleep. I was
That's when
sleeping
I
and
was
I fell
out.
asleep.
That's the moment I was like, okay, this is a giant piece of shit. So I'm gonna.
that was
Yeah,
the
right?
moment. I was like, it was a giant piece of shit before I saw that scene. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
now I'm back in.
Yeah, I pretty much gave up at that point too, and I just said, you know what, this is a movie. Just turn my brain off and just watch
Mhm.
whatever's on the screen. But it's sad because you had Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire, and then you compare that to Godzilla -1, which actually had better special effects despite the budget and an interesting human story to it. So it's just amazing how bad the Americans did it compared to the Japanese.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, if
I remember
Kong,
watching.
I was
Go
gonna
ahead.
say if Kong had actually, given Godzilla the Stone Cold Stunner throughout the movie, it probably would have given it 5 stars.
I remember watching the trailer for Godzilla Kong in like a restaurant, and I was like, "Oh, a new Godzilla movie. We should watch that." And then my brother was like, the Japanese made a new Godzilla movie. We should watch that instead." And I was like, "Eh?" So,
Mhm.
but we did see both of them.
ignored the
and
people
this
who
one was
actually
awful.
created the Godzilla. You actually thought that they weren't worth your time. Excuse me, they have a criterion.
No, I
for
did.
A lot
I
of
was like, "Oh,
Godzilla
let's watch that instead."
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, let's watch that instead. Let's not watch this one. Let's watch Godzilla -1. I was like,
Oh, okay. Okay, I got confused.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah,
My apologies.
yeah. And then we watched this one after that, and I was like, man, why do they even make these movies? There was like the little monkey or whatever. When I watched the trailer, I was like half paying attention, I guess. So I got like this impression that the little monkey was the bad guy and was gonna like grow into like a giant thing and be like
Mhm.
the ultra villain. And I was really
Turned into
disappointed that
Big
that never
Monkey.
happened because it seemed like a really good idea. I don't know what
Yeah.
about the trailer made me think that, but that was like the impression I had going in and an expectation
Well,
that I had throughout the whole movie, and I was just waiting for it to happen, and I was like, "Why did that never happen?" It was just a
I
little
mean,
monkey
I
the
was
whole
just waiting for the Lanky Kong to show up and be the villain of the film. Then he doesn't show up like an hour into the runtime, and it's like, well, shit, the movie's always over now, so it's like, well, who do I care about this guy for?
I think I
Yeah,
know
I
why
don't
you
even
thought that.
actually remember Kong.
Yeah, no, I think I know why you thought that, Sarah, because if you can imagine the little monkey overpowering the other monkeys the same way that you can imagine Sam Rockwell lifting Bryce Dallas Howard and doing these dances. I mean, they're both small creatures, and they're able to overpower larger ones.
This entire conversation is a little depressing just because I was reading about Ron Howard as a child learning from John Wayne right as he was dying on the shootist, and this is what Hollywood's become. So thank you. And by the way, he also said that films are becoming pornography. So man ahead of his time.
Yeah, I saw a documentary about John Wayne, which you can find on Peacock, and Ron Howard talks about what he learned, and that he was a much more interesting and complicated figure than the persona.
Yeah.
That he was not actually aggressive as in the movies. It was actually much more intellectual.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it for me. You're welcome.
I figure if I make too much noise, it takes away from the slow clap. Well, comics. I think it's your turn to go ahead and here talk about the absolute worst films that you saw in the year that was 2024. So I don't know how many films you got here, but you've got a number of them. Go ahead, just list them all out.
Yeah, I'll give you my top 5. I mean, just purely just films and not with a mixture of TV shows. At number 5, I have Gladiator. Gladiator 2. Sorry, let me specify. The first Gladiator is probably one of my top 5-10 movies ever made, mainly because as much as it's historical fiction, a lot of the stuff that Ridley Scott did in that movie was very accurate to the time period. One of the things I like bringing up when I was studying this is that for the longest time, a lot of people had no idea what these holes were at the top of the Colosseum, and they figured out what they did is they would put poles in them and basically run canvas cloth basically to shade the crowd from the sun. And that was one of the things that they actually had in the first movie. And I was just like, I was really kind of blown away by like that level of attention to detail. Obviously, Commodus did participate in the games. He did not die that way. But in this one, it just seems like every ounce of believability of historical fiction was literally tossed in the bin. And it was just a complete terrible movie on so many different levels. I mean, just with the mixture of historical inaccuracies in it.
Hold on a second. Hold on. Are you actually trying to claim that the Roman Empire did not have essentially street sharks that ate the foes of their fallen heroes in the giant pit of water? That didn't happen. That wasn't real life.
No, comics. I'm just curious. I thought it was completely accurate when Maximus's tomb had his quote written in English.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, it's very accurate. The funny thing is, I didn't even notice that. People, Metatron is the one I heard about that from. And
no, it stuck out to me. For some reason, I became enraged at that point.
I just completely overlooked it. I didn't even see that in the theater, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. But yeah, I mean, the one thing that Ridley Scott did get right in this one is that they would flood the Colosseum and they would do mock naval battles, which was cool to see. But the thing with the sharks being in there, I mean, that really pulled me out of the film, because if you are even halfway educated on sharks, it's like there's no way that was humanly possible. A, because sharks typically die in captivity. The fact that they're so far away from the ocean. I mean, they did manage to get seawater sometimes, depending on the
Well,
location.
not to mention they would have to literally capture the sharks, and the ability to do that in like, what was it, like 50,
Well,
80?
they did actually, like some of the Roman coastal cities did do that. They did raise sharks, but in Rome, no, completely
In
not
fairness,
realistic.
I'm sure that these sharks probably swam up the Tiber and they were just fished out and dumped into the
Oh yeah,
Colosseum.
totally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Guys, it's just like, the Deadliest Catch. It just had big giant, like, crates where they go up there and they capture the fish and they bring it onto the boat.
I mean, they did use hippos, they did use crocodiles. I mean, that's what should have been in there. And then you have like straight out of Warhammer, the guy riding the rhino, which was pretty funny. It's just like there's so many things, and it was just comically awful, and just the way he bastardized history this go around. And like I said, I'm fine with certain liberties being taken, like with the first one, the fact that Maximus killed Commodus in the arena, but literally like the kid that grew up to be the gladiator in this one was dead, and again that is a massive liberty that they're taking. And there's so many things that were wrong with that film. And when they made the announcement, I was just like, oh God, please no, don't do another one. It's Ridley Scott has lost his edge as a filmmaker, and it's been very apparent in his last several films, which is very
I think with guys like him too, it's even worse because it's like they have legacy in Hollywood based on their past works. So it's like you can't tell them anything like at this point, because if you tell them that their work is shit or not up to par, they just think you don't know what the hell you're talking about, and they're just going to double down. So they're even more far gone.
Denzel was a fantastic actor, and he was awful in this film. I mean, he just was like so out of place, and he was. I'm guessing just a very poor casting choice, because it's just like, he came off like somebody was literally plucked from Brooklyn and dropped in,
well, not only that, but it's like he's in the scene with the two Dumbledore twins the entire time. I'm just like, okay, I guess we're all just gonna act over the top and fruity the entire time. So
the sad thing is that Saturday Night Live parody where they turn Gladiator 2 into a musical, it's actually better than anything in the entire movie, and he's actually better in that. And just for the record, the shark thing was one of the things that bothered me the least in this whole movie. But I'll get to that later.
Yeah, but like I said, that a lot of things that the first movie got right, this one just got so wrong, and that was unfortunate. So number 4 is Madam Web. I don't think I really need to elaborate just how that movie is just a comedy of errors, and when people say basically it's kind of like a porn parody, it's pretty spot on. With
the first 10 minutes doesn't give you that indication, I mean, it's bad.
But if it's any comfort, Ian, Madam Web does not qualify for Best Picture consideration because it's not diverse enough.
You know what's weird about Madam Web is that woman who that guy killed, the villain kills in the beginning, the very first like scene where we meet him.
Yeah,
that's I think her name's Jill Hennessy. She used to be on Law and Order as like the ADA. And really I know her from City on a Hill. I didn't realize that was her. Where it's like, an actress can look different when she's young and when she's older, but she's still attractive when she's older. That's kind of what I mean, is like I just didn't recognize her as that, the Law and Order ADA or whatever. But the fact that she's in there for 5 minutes, like I wonder what she got paid for that.
Well,
my thing is like
enough.
I'm surprised that she acted for him, because she looked terrible in that first scene.
Well, I might have missed that, Rob, because I might have been distracted by the Dutch angle there. That I was trying to like not fall off, trying to figure out where I was. But it was.
Imagine watching that movie in 3D. Motion sickness. That we'll talk more about that one in a bit.
And my number 3, and this one is a big one for me, is the Crow remake. And I hated that movie a lot, because I'm such a fan of the original one. I've owned the graphic novel, read it several times. It's fantastic. As much as the movie deviates a lot from the source material, it is still a good movie, and it sticks to the spirit of the book, where this is completely the opposite, and it takes a massive steaming dump on the source material, because the whole thing with Eric, I mean, there was a very anti-drug message to the first one, and where you have the opposite here, where Eric and Shelley are both drug addicts and they're just kind of crappy people. Where in the first one, that they're kind of the pillar of their community. They're standing up for the rights of the citizens that live in this building, and ultimately it leads to their death. Where and this one, it's because you have this guy who made a deal with the devil, and he gets people to do bad things against their will and not willingly, and by doing so it extends his life, and that's kind of the setup for it. And it's like, this is really awful and dumb, and it's not about vengeance. I mean, the first movie is legitimately, it is about vengeance. The fact that he died in such a horrible fashion that the universe sees it as well, we need restitution, so I'm bringing you back to avenge your murder and your wife's murder, wife to be murder, and take out these bad guys. And that is what the fundamental difference between these movies is, that yes, it is a revenge story, but it's the wicked getting punished. Where this, you're just like, nobody's good. It's filled with nihilism, which is not what The Crow is supposed to be about. Because I mean, one of the most powerful scenes in the first one was when Eric basically is confronting Darla about her, about Sarah, and he's like, mother is the name of God on the lips and hearts of children, and he basically forces the heroin out of her veins, and she kind of has that epiphany of, I need to fix my life, I need to reconnect with my daughter, and she does so. And there's like, as much as it's a violent movie, there's this hope that comes out of that because of scenes like that. And you don't get anything like that in the remake. And it needs to be pitched right into the bin and never be made again. And the thing on top of that is that there has been several different Crow comic series that could have been adapted. We didn't need to rehash Eric's story. And they keep trying to do it, and they keep massively screwing it up from, multiple movies to series, you name it. It's been completely terrible.
You didn't even mention how bad the actress, what was it, Twigs, is that her?
Yeah,
You didn't mention how bad she was. I don't think I've seen just one of the worst performances, I think, this whole year. In fact, probably this whole decade.
Yeah, I mean, it's not great, but as far as like the hierarchy of sins of this movie, I would say that's probably at the very bottom of it. So
yeah, the same with the sharks from Gladiator 2 for me.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean,
I couldn't agree more.
It was just completely horrible. Yeah, there's a lot of bad casting in it. You name it. All right, moving on. Joker 2 is my number 2 because of its spitefulness to the audience. You had a lot of people, and first off, it's a movie that should not exist. It is a complete unnecessary sequel. It doesn't need to exist. The first one had no right to be as good as it was for being this kind of Elseworld Joker origin story, which we don't need. But it was executed perfectly, and the fact that the director came back and said, obviously, all the wrong people like this movie, we basically have to go and take a giant steaming dump on the audience for reasons. All the way around, it was a massive loser because, first off, obviously Warner Brothers made him do it. I'm sure they probably backed a giant dump truck full of money onto his lawn. And he didn't want to do a sequel. And he's like, well, this time I'm just going to be mean and spiteful and take a giant dump on the audience. Yeah. Screw you. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, like I said, this was what I like to call it, a $1 billion punch in the dick to your fan base, is what it was.
Well, and the thing is with Warner Brothers is they keep making all these really bad decisions. We're boned, we're boneheads, whatever you want to call WB at this point. They keep making these really bad decisions, which don't help the future of the DCU at this point.
No,
I mean, just watch Creature Commandos. That's another kind of like middle finger to the audience. I think. And my number one, which is honestly my favorite terrible movie, was The American Society of Magical Negroes, because it was just such a outlandishly racist movie towards white people and black people too. It was so horrible, but it was done in such a way that it was absolutely hilarious in its racism. The fact that you have was it Justice Smith? I know that you, Jacob, have kind of crapped on Justice Smith because he's awful in this movie. Yeah, it's like I don't understand the point. It's like he discovers he has a right to exist, and it's like, really? The
because
premise
apparently
is,
everyone was just trying to kill him.
yeah, it was so dumb, and the fact that everyone was being threatened by the non-threatening biracial man is silly. Yeah.
I got to
and-
admit,
my
that
God,
had me
he
laughing
lives-
so many times.
And by
Trust
the
me,
way,
I was laughing too.
he lives in Los Angeles, by the way. This is where the whole movie is set. He's not in like Selma. He's not in like some backwards Oklahoma town. Or he's in LA. He somehow feels threatened for his life in Los Angeles.
Well,
Like, really?
the thing about it's like, okay, you have this socially awkward guy, right? And that honestly is probably the biggest thing about the character. Is not that he's black or biracial or whatever. It's the fact that he's socially
gay.
awkward and trying to navigate the world. Okay, that is something that people could relate to. A lot of people have social awkwardness. You could have built something around it rather than race and kind of overcoming being socially retarded, I guess. And that's not what they focused on. And the fact that you in the movie, it's like the sorority of magical girlfriends or something like that. It's like, and that I saw that one coming a mile away. So it was pretty predictable. Like I said, awful movie, but funny as hell to watch because of the way they kind of like clutched together the racism of the movie. It's just like, whatever. All right, fine. And that's basically what I have.
Yep. Yeah, some of those movies will definitely circle back around to, at least on my list. I don't know that much for it. I'll probably go even more depth, but you'll be probably disturbed to know that the Magical Society of Negroes is only the second most racist movie that came out in 2024. Because there's
I think I know which
Yeah.
one. I think I know which one topped that one.
Yeah, we'll get to it here, but you know what, Rick? This is your time to shine here because you weren't here last week, so you didn't get a chance to talk about the best movies. We'll give you your chance to talk about the best movies on the Barroom this week, but let's go ahead and talk about your worst movies of 2024.
All right. Well, first, let me go through my 5 dishonorable mentions, and I'm going to go from 15 to 11. I've got The First Omen, which is supposed to be a prequel to this Omen franchise, which should never
I was about
have.
to say, didn't that movie come out 2 years ago?
No, I don't know. I don't know, but it was really bad, and it doesn't really tie in to the Omen movie, which I think is one of the great horror films. It's certainly one that I enjoy, but The First Omen was terrible. It's illogical and like. Yeah, you have a nun. Apparently, nuns are allowed to go clubbing. It made no sense. It was just ridiculous. I just hated it. Then you had A Family Affair,
Mom
which is
Springer for nuns.
apparently, yeah. So, I mean, you thought Isabella Rossellini was a crazy nun, but no, that one is nuttier. A Family Affair, the one that Jacob made me watch and did not tell me that I would be the only one watching it, a Netflix thing where
I remember that.
Zac Efron was stooping Nicole Kidman, and the daughter was upset about it because the daughter was just horrible. Everything about it was just horrible. He's trying to play like a parody of a star, and it's just not working. I thought it was bad.
So Rick, that's Joey King, the daughter.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
golly. You see, that's how unmemorable she is. At number 13 is the American Society of Magical Negroes. Justice Smith cannot act. I mean, he's just really bad. All he does is just scream. It's like he scream or like he's a parody of whatever he's supposed to be. And
A gay black man.
a gay black man. Yes. I think RuPaul is probably like more masculine
More masculine. That's funny.
than Justice Smith. And I just remember him from that Jurassic World movie where I wanted him to be eaten. I wanted him to be like devoured and torn into a million pieces. But that was very bad, and yes, racist, because I don't assume that all white people are going to hate you. They probably hate it. They probably wouldn't even care who he was when he was going on in that long, ridiculous speech. But oh no, I live in a country that wants to kill me. It's like, son,
No, you don't.
nobody cares. Nobody cares who you are. Okay, nobody cares. At number 12 is the Book of Clarence, which is simultaneously racist and blasphemous. I love James McAvoy as an actor, but he was so over the top, even for whatever nonsense this was. I don't know what he was doing here. I guess he was maybe training to do Speak No Evil and play some sort of crazed villain, but it's just bad, and it's racist because it just assumes that white people again hate all black people, and you have that fake white Jesus. It's just confusing. At number
Fake white
11,
Jesus.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that later on.
at number 11 is The Crow. And the reason it did not crack my top 10 is because I had not seen the original. And I know I get trashed for not having seen the original.
You gotta see it. It's such
Do
a good
yourself
movie.
a
Oh, no,
favor.
no. Actually, I did. I saw it about a week or two ago, and I gave it it's a very good film. I really enjoyed it, especially when you consider the tragedy about Brandon Lee's death and how well they managed to make the movie despite that. I appreciated the special effects that they had to use to fill in some parts that normally I'm not a big fan of voiceovers, but it worked there, and the visuals were great, the soundtrack was great. So I really like the first one. Now I know why people have it higher in their worst stuff. But for me, the performances were bad. I think Bill Skarsgård tried. I want to say he tried. FKWCYWKRP in Cincinnati Twigs, whatever. She was just unbelievably bad. And was it Jack Houston? Was it? Well, whatever. One of the Houstons.
Danny.
Danny, thank you. I'm confusing him with his nephew or son or one of those. He at least, I guess, was trying to be over the top to make it hilarious, but no, it just didn't work. But nah, that was bad. Okay, so now my official top 10. Top 10. At number 10 is The Fall Guy. Now, I know that, yes.
Yes, it's terrible.
I know that there are certain people here
I
who
loved
thought
it.
it was
I thought
it was
great.
great. I know there are certain people here who thought it was great and who were like, "Oh, this is hilarious." Okay, first off,
He chased off Sarah. Thanks, nice going, Rick.
oh well, c'est la vie. Ryan Gosling struggles when he tries to be comedic because it always looks like he knows he's in a comedy and he's trying to play it as if, oh, look at me, I am funny, but it's very robotic. It doesn't look natural. There were some scenes that just went on far too long, like when he has to fill in an Australian shoot and they're discussing their relationship. It's like, okay, you could do it the first time, but it just keeps going on and on and on.
I mean, it has problems. It does have problems, but it is a fun movie.
It's not fun. It's not fun. I sat there.
I will say this. I will say this. Because I think I was the first one to watch it. I made it about an hour in. I just tapped out. I couldn't do it.
No, again, the problem really is Ryan Gosling. Oh, this is a Fall Guy.
Fall Guy.
The Fall Guy.
Oh, the Fall Guy. I have to defend it. Go ahead, though.
Go ahead. I'd love to hear this because he tries too hard to be funny, and he never is. All the comedies that he's been in, even Barbie, he's always so serious. I don't believe that there's any bit of chemistry between him and Emily Blunt, and really, she should be smarter than to keep going with this guy. The plot is ridiculous. I don't know why they even thought to have Aaron Taylor Johnson in this. I didn't understand any of it. And here's the thing: it's supposed to be based on a TV show.
It is, yeah.
There's nothing connecting it to the TV show because the TV show was about a stuntman who solved crimes. I guess it took that premise
he was
and
like
it didn't quite
a bounty hunter. And
well, I don't remember. It had a great theme song, but it's just terrible. I didn't understand what is it? Stephanie Shu was in this. I think she was in there. The thing about the dog always biting people when it spoke German, like none of this is funny. It's just I hated this
Well,
movie.
I mean,
and-
that's how they trained them. You
And-
know, most
and-
attack dogs, it's usually French or German, another language that most people probably would not be speaking, which is why they did that. So,
well, I think English is probably one of the most spoken languages. That and Mandarin.
no,
or
you
Cantonese.
want to use a language that is not being spoken.
Yeah, and the only reason that he would speak was it French is because Ryan Gosling is Canadian, and that we should deport him instead of trying to deport me. No, it was far too long. So at number
That's-
9,
I'll give you that.
at number 9, Deadpool and Wolverine. Now I know a lot of people. Yes, a lot of people enjoyed the kind of the winking to the camera and breaking the fourth wall. But my gosh, this was the first movie that I actually thought was worse than Argyle. But it fought its, Argyle fought its way back to being even worse. I've never been a big fan of Deadpool movies, and I just did not understand why we needed all this referential elements to it. I sat there and I thought, who are all these characters? It was kind of sad for me to see Jennifer Garner as Electric Nachos back again. And my gosh, the whole Channing Tatum as Gambit thing. Now, I know that he's always wanted to play Gambit, but I could never tell if he was trying to be deliberately funny or if he is just some sort of weird accident that his Cajun accent was just so idiotically, ridiculously over the top. It's like you would have made a terrible Gambit. Taylor Kitsch was actually better in that small part in one of those X-Men movies.
Well, he's not the greatest actor, right? I mean, the only
He's
reason why
not
he's
an
in
actor.
Hollywood is because he used to be a stripper.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing that Channing Tatum has shown any talent for is taking his clothes off. And just for the record, contrary to what some people have said around here, I have no interest in seeing Channing Tatum take his clothes off. I have no interest in seeing any man take his clothes off. Well, maybe Spencer.
Is that a shot at rooftop Korean there?
No, maybe Spencer. Maybe Spencer. He might be the sole man whom I would not mind. Or
Oh God, please move on from this.
But yeah, I didn't find any of it funny. I didn't find any of it clever, and I don't know if it was trying to tug at my heartstrings, but I guess the audience was laughing, but I did not laugh once. At number 8, Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire, a movie that was just too stuffed with characters. You had
about that movie.
the old crew and you had the new crew, and they could never meld. The middle child, or I mean the older son, he had no purpose. He could have been cut out entirely. His whole thing was just going, fighting Slimer. Why? You didn't need that. Then you had the lesbian ghost sex. Why did we need to have lesbian ghost sex or the suggestion of lesbian ghost sex? I did not know that was.
Please clarify. You mean ghost sex, not goat sex, because people are going to be like, "What the hell is going on in this movie?"
I said
I'll
ghost.
take both.
Ghost sex.
And I was still going, what the hell's going on in this movie?
Lesbian ghost sex. Yes, because the girl who's always
Like they're having sex with ghosts. What is it, the Middle East?
Let's take a little of both here.
We'll have Spencer. We'll have the civil union at Petco Park. It was just too stuffed with. Oh, look! Remember this? Remember that? Like, what do you call those? Remember berries? And then Kumail Nanjiani. What is his whole purpose there? What is his whole purpose there? Being the fire master, fire starter, fire lord, whatever.
Here's the thing: you guys give so much crap to the Ryan Reynolds and the Henry Cavills and the Channing Tatum. When are we going to give that guy? I don't think he gets far enough crap because he's another one who I don't think I've ever seen anything good that he's ever been in ever.
Not
Silicon
even Eternals.
Valley. Silicon Valley.
Not
Sorry,
even
I
Eternals.
didn't
Come
watch
on, Eternals. He was great.
No.
But no, that movie was far too long. It was pointless. Nobody had any real purpose to be there. And hey, it's good to see Bill Murray just take some money. That's all he was there for. And the contempt he had for this whole thing was just clear on the screen. At number 7, The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Now, as you know, I'm not a fan of Henry Cavill. I don't think he can act. He's beautiful to look at, but he cannot act, no matter how hard he's tried. Though I understand he's fine in The Tudors. This movie is supposed to be based on a true story, and it just played too much like parody. I don't know if it was supposed to be like this is kind of like this is the movie that the movie within the movie of Inglorious Bastards. This is basically what it was, like a feature length version of it. Though to be fair, it's good to hear Henry Cavill speak with this native British accent instead of trying to sound like an American. I will give them that. Other than that, this movie's pointless, plotless, and it's hard to believe that it's really based on a true story. But no, it was. I hated everything of it, every part of it. All right, you've been waiting for it. At number 6, it's Argyle. That's right. I found 5 films that I hated more. Argyle.
It's a shocker.
Everything I know, and Argyle fought for the longest time to stay at number 1, but I had to be honest. And I think honestly, I have it here almost out of spite because I just detested that movie. Few movies have I left like almost with shaking fury, and that was one of them because everything about it was bad. The story was nonsensical. They gave nothing to Catherine O'Hara, who I consider a comedic genius. Bryan Cranston was just there for no reason. Samuel L. Jackson, again, I guess was taking more money. I'll give credit to Sam Rockwell. I know Sarah's a big fan, but at least he tried. I think he genuinely tried to make this work, but there's nothing here that
He always
worked.
tries.
He peaked at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
But the action scenes were typical of what is it? Matthew Vaughn, I think that's the director. And I kept wondering, why are they playing "Do You Want to Funk with Me" as they're battling on the train? I think this is a strange song, but you could tell that they were acting because the line delivery was bad, and that whole skating on oil. God, I just hated that. And the worst part is the suggestion that not only is this the first part of a new franchise, but it's going to tie into the Kingsman Universe franchise. Look, I don't want to.
Is it actually supposed to?
That was a plan. That was a plan
Wow.
to make like 2 or 3 and then tie into the Kingsman universe. Look, this is the thing. I never want to see a movie that basically is a trailer for another movie, which is what Argyle was. That's what planned, it was basically a trailer for more movies. Never make a movie thinking that people are going to want to watch more. Concentrate on the first movie. Argyle was just unbelievably bad. I hated it, but I found some that I hated more. At number 5, Venom: The Last Dance. Now this is brainless, and maybe I'm being too harsh, but everything about this makes no sense. I sat there and I'm thinking, why am I watching any of this? I never really considered Tom Hardy one of our great actors, but it looked like I guess he was having fun with all of this. But why? No, I can't even remember enough about it to really just hate it. I just remember hating this more than Argyle. That's how bad it was.
It's a movie where literally nothing happens, and then Venom dies. Spoiler.
And I'm
alert.
supposed to feel sad. Look, that's one part I remember where they're playing Maroon 5's Memories after Venom supposedly dies and then just goes off to New York so that he could go see the Statue of Liberty, which was one of his great dreams. This is idiotic. I'm sorry. In the brain, that's where it hurt me. So yeah, I don't want to talk about that. So at number 4, Gladiator 2: Electric Boogaloo. This is just. Oh wait, when I started hating this movie, I started hating it when I saw those ridiculous CGI baboons that were the most fake baboons ever. I mean, you guys focus on the sharks way too much. Focus
the
on
baboons were bad too.
The damn baboons that just look so fake. And the fact that it actually, I think, made the short list for best visual effects, you people are insane at the Academy. You really are. That is, forget and again, as I pointed out to you, comics, when I saw that quote from Maximus, those who die in eternity or whatever, when I saw it written in English, I was like, what the hell? Are you people this lazy? Do you think that the Britons came down here and just chiseled that in? Put it in Latin. Honestly, put it in Latin. this whole talk about Denzel Washington getting a Best Supporting Actor out of this, maybe because he overplayed it and was just like he was having a ball. He was just having a ball. But early on in my notes, I wrote, "Are they just redoing Gladiator beat for beat? It's basically the same story. They're repeating
Kind
the
of.
same story." Yeah. No, one thing I never understood is if he's the son, why is it that the mom never seemed to care where the son went? It's like yeah, we just lost in the deserts of Morocco for like 20 years. I'm not going to bother catching up with him. And what they did to poor Derek Jacobi, I could see out of the corner of my eye when they're having that final conclusion, and Denzel Washington kills the mother. Surprise, sorry, spoiler. When he kills the mother, and she's like, "Go and fight for me." I'm going, you know what? You'd be dead. You would not be talking. All right, you've just been shot through an arrow. You're not going to give any inspirational speeches.
Yeah.
And you could see Derek Jacobi in the background, like holding a little spear, like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And they kill him off. I was laughing. But that was bad. Gladiator 2, Judgment Day. There's no point for this movie. I would have preferred that Maximus just come back as a ghost and start killing people. At number 3, Monkey Man, a movie that is so overrated by so many people who were so impressed with the
Hold on,
visual.
I'm sorry. Pause. Who actually overrated this movie? Because I've heard everyone say that this movie is absolute certified dog shit.
No, well, no, you don't see the people on film Twitter, do you? With the cinema intelligentsia who just adored it. Like, oh, the visuals, it's the Indian John Wick, and all of this. I'm going, no, it's not.
I mean, the trailer looked pretty good, and then I never ended up seeing it, but yeah, it's unfortunate that it's not good.
Yeah. Excuse me. No, what happened was Dev Patel is a director. He just loved moving the camera. That was his whole shtick. He was just trying too hard. The plot makes no sense. He goes back and forth trying to make him, like, I guess, weak, and then he's trained by the Amelia Perez Brigade to be like a warrior king. And I mean, it's just ridiculous. And at one point, I think he not only rips his shirt to show, I guess, his muscular body, trying to outdo Channing Tatum, but then he rips open his chest so you could see the heart. And I'm like, I feel like I'm trapped in some pseudo-intellectual film students avant-garde film.
Remember, the whole movie is based on some kind of weird demonic Hindu god, and that's why he was ripping out his heart. And you can see that. I'll explain more detail later on, because surprised that's on my list too.
No, it was just terrible, and the idea that Dev Patel has some sort of directing skill is not there. I was just shocked at how bad it was. At number 2, speaking of the Amelia Perez Brigade, number 2, Emilia Perez, which will get nominated for Best Picture and probably Best Actress for their transgender Spaniard, and Best Supporting Actress for the very Mexican Zoe Saldana. Yes, when I think Mexican, I think Zoe Saldana, the first name that pops to mind. This movie plays like parody. Every aspect of this movie plays like parody. It's a musical about a drug lord who discovers the woman within and decides to transition, and then for some reason decides, oh, I miss the kids I made with my vaguely Mexican, vaguely American wife, so I'm going to pretend to be the aunt and then just bring them in here and have a whole bunch of terrible songs. Now, I know that they're probably going to nominate and maybe award one song called El Mal to this movie. You might have heard it. Da, da, bese mal. I mean, it's like the one that Zoe Saldana does that dance to. It's a terrible song, performed terribly. And she's terrible in it. The fact that she's probably going to win Best Supporting Actress, I'd prefer Ariana Grande to win Best Supporting Actress over Zoe Saldana.
At least that makes sense.
Yes, because all she does is just this dance. I mean, that's her big scene, this big dance. I'll give her credit. She does, she speaks Spanish very well. I don't know if that was like her first language or, she grew up with it, but I give her credit for that. But it's not a performance. And let me tell you, as an actual Mexican American myself, who will get deported in a couple of weeks, I will, once the Trump gets inaugurated, I'm out. It's not believable to have Zoe Saldana. If she says in the movie that she was born in the Dominican Republic, but she's Mexican, I'm going, most Mexicans probably would not believe you're Mexican. They would believe you're Dominican, which is nothing wrong with that. More power to you. I will not bash Selena Gomez for her bad Spanish. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I know that it's her second language, and it's probably her parents' second language. Unlike my
The
mom,
waspiest like Mexican I've ever heard in my entire life.
I'm the waspiest. I was the waspiest until Selena Gomez came along. Look, she didn't grow up with it. Her parents.
How could you guys be so close to Texas and be so bad at Spanish? It makes no sense.
¿Qué quieres decir con eso, mijo? I speak pretty good Spanish. The thing is, in the movie, it's not clear whether she's an American who married into a Mexican, or like a Mexican. It's unclear, because at certain points she starts speaking in English, and she's better at that. So the movie's confusing. The songs are ridiculous, and one thing that I had a big problem with is the fact that her the drug lord's name is Manitas. That's his drug lord name. Do you know what Manitas means in Spanish?
No.
It means little hands. We have this vicious drug lord whose nom de guerre is little hands. That's what Manitas means. And I'm thinking, that's stupid. That's a stupid drug lord name. You need like a tough drug lord name. But the whole thing is just embarrassing.
Is
and the
that
fact
like
that
a jab at Trump or something? Little hands?
I don't know. I don't know. But
I mean, the main character was about as fat as Trump, so who knows? Maybe it is a reference.
The fact that so many people are saying that this is going to win Best Picture, Best Foreign Language Film, Best Supporting Actress, Best Original Song, Best Adapted Screenplay, if they're really wanting it to win, it's depressing. This has been just an absolutely terrible slate of films for Best Picture. Emilia Perez is a terrible film, hated by Mexicans and Mexican Americans, for all variety of reasons.
Real quick before we continue with your list, Culture Casino donated $2. He says, "Seriously, I don't think Ian saw 5 films this year. That is
no
a direct
Culture.
shot."
My Santikos app says otherwise, so screw you, buddy.
In other words, Culture, get bent. That's actually what he was saying.
But I'm finally down to
that's
my.
That's the polite way of saying it.
Well, I'm finally down to my number one. I'm finally down to from woman, man, penis to vagina. It's terrible.
Yeah.
My number one movie of the year, the worst film, Joker Folie à Deux. And now someone who can actually say it. Joker Folie à Deux. A movie that, and I agree with comics on this, a movie that seemed to have contempt. It probably did have utter contempt for the fans. I'll tell you a quick story. My cousin went out of town. He goes out of town for his job. He went to see Joker Folie à Deux, and he told me when he came back that he didn't know it was a musical. And when he left, he just did not go to another movie for the rest of his business trip because he was so traumatized by just how bad Joker Folie à Deux was.
It was pretty terrible.
It's basically a jukebox musical where they can't integrate the songs correctly. The performances are really just broad and cartoonish. And I felt there's that scene where Puddles goes to testify, and then for some weird reason, Joker decides to do this weird Southern accent and like make fun of Puddles. You see, that's the problem. Puddles, or the actor who's playing Puddles, he's playing it perfectly straight, making this like very great tragedy and like, how traumatized he was. Joker is like, oh, your name is Puddles, and we're supposed to laugh. It's just terrible. The whole thing
it's sad part. That is actually the best scene in the entire movie because it was the only scene where he actually felt like the Joker. Because in his mind, he's sitting there. It's like, but I let you go. So like, why are you complaining? So you're the only person I didn't kill.
No. He's not actually the Joker because remember at the end he gets knifed by the potential other Joker. I'm going, you know what? Stop. A movie that just had utter contempt for its audience. More than anything else, the bad acting, the nonsensical story, the musical tie-ins that have no purpose in being there. More than anything else, the fact that this movie seemed to hate its audience, literally hate them so much that they're going to say, we're going to make a movie that is going to destroy everything you liked about the first one. And I actually liked the first Joker. I named it like one of my 10 best of that year. Nothing will ever top. I would sooner see Argyle than Joker Folie à Deux. That's how bad Joker Folie à Deux was. So that's my list, people. God bless us all.
Yep. Well, that brings us back here to a point of Mr. Rob Motto. And now we've reached your time to shine here. This is where you get to tell us all your favorite bad movies of the year, but you have to start with your honorable mention. So I'm actually pretty intrigued to hear this one because people tend to think that you're the contrarian here in this bunch. You just hate movies, they hate movies. So now you get to talk about movies that you actually legitimately hate.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and start with Conclave. Okay, I'm so fucking sick of people saying, this is adult filmmaking and this is a movie that you should. No, it's not. It's a terrible movie that throws in a fucking tranny pope at the end. Okay, like it's not. Yeah, there's some
intersex pope. Thank you very much.
Acting and film production here. Quiet rooms, whispering, and conspiracy, and it's very political, but it amounts to absolutely nothing. It amounts to, placing anybody that is concerned about certain groups of people being disruptors and sort of like fomenting all sorts of points of view that kind of go against the Catholic Church, which again I know has its problems, but like the sort of reactionary cardinal, like I actually like that guy. I was like, let's get him in. But no, it's a glossied up Hollywood production about something. It's like, oh, gotcha, right at the end, and it's like, okay, I hate you. Your ending is so bad. It went from like maybe a 2.5 to like a 1 or 1.5 out of 5. So like when I finally got around to seeing it, I had heard so many different things. I heard it's an Oscar contender. It's going to be up for Best Picture. It's one of the best movies of the year. And then the people that I podcast with every week were telling me no, it's absolutely atrocious. So I was kind of interested in seeing it. And then it was like, oh, okay. I'm surprised how many critics, how many people on film Twitter never mentioned the big twist as if it was organically into woven into the story, which I never felt like that. I never felt like they did even a good job of being like, oh, there's this big twist. I mean, it was just like, okay, there's going to be a pope named, and oh, okay, there's the big twist, and you just ruined the movie. So don't want to talk about it too much here, but I know a lot of people really liked it, and it's like, so that storytelling decision to me would be so embarrassing to make. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because you make a relatively straightforward drama about, this hierarchy and power structure, and like that is interesting. People are interested in seeing that.
And I will say this too, it's not even just the fact that they made it a trans pope at the end. It's literally a pope who none of the other cardinals even knew. Like, he shows up completely unannounced. No one knows who he is. No one knows anything that he stands for. He makes one little speech at the very end of the movie, and everyone says he needs to be the new vicar of Christ, and they just elect him without knowing anything about him, and then it bites him in the ass. So it's like, that's stupid.
No, and then I'm still puzzled as to why, as much as I love Isabella Rossellini, why she's considered a serious contender for supporting actress. It's such a tiny part. I don't get the love for her. I don't get the love for any of this. But I would have actually voted for the kind of evil right-wing pope, because he actually made sense. It's like, yeah, these people are trying to kill us. We should not be coddling them. But you have the very gentle, sweet pope. It's like, oh, we should love all times. It's basically a battle between Benedict XVI and Pope Francis. And look how Pope Francis is doing what is to the church.
I mean, Pope Francis is so bad, even Mel Gibson is now renouncing the Roman Catholic Church publicly. So that's how bad things have gotten.
Well, to be fair,
good for Mel.
Yeah, but to be fair, Mel Gibson has never accepted Vatican II.
Well, that's a whole other conversation.
So number fourth honorable mention is The Fall Guy. Sitting through this movie and it was Thanksgiving. I had waited until it came out on Peacock, and they have a director's cut, which is even longer. But I didn't want to torture myself too much. So this movie just has no engine to it. It's just sputtering constantly, and it's doing that thing I hate. Look, I like Ryan Gosling in that very predictable, like says very little, beats the hell out of somebody, is like brooding, is like, like Drive, Only God Forgives, The Place Beyond the Pines. I like that Ryan Gosling. Outside of that, I'm just kind of like, eh. And his comedy stuff is so excruciating. It is so painful to have to sit through that. And it's like, look, Ryan, I'm glad that you made it out of the Mickey Mouse Club. I'm glad that it seems like you probably had, an untraumatized childhood, and I'm happy for you. But ever since Remember the Titans and Lars and the Real Girl, it's like he'll never be somebody that I take 100% seriously. Like he is a joke, and him doing those comedy bits, it's like, I know that some people really like it. I know that, people chuckle at it. It's like nails on a chalkboard to me. And I like Emily Blunt. I've definitely come around on her since Oppenheimer. She's not really given a whole lot to do here. So Aaron Taylor Johnson is probably up for like my worst actor of the year between this and Nosferatu and Craven. Just all around, all terrible performances. And guess what? He was in one of my favorite movies, Nocturnal Animals, which he won a Golden Globe for that role. So again, it's like there are things that he can do that I know he's capable, but man, he just completely struck out this year. So Fall Guy is my fourth honorable mention. Number 3, I'm gonna have to move this up, but anyway, number 3, God, there's so much terrible stuff. Okay, The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. This is another movie I really hated. It basically an Inglourious Bastards ripoff, including the one guy, Hugo Stieglitz in the movie, like the Nazi killer guy. He's the bad guy in this, and then you have that Hispanic chick who's really hot, but she's super annoying, and it doesn't matter.
She's supposed to be Jewish in the film too, which I'm just kind of like, okay,
you have Alan Rickson.
Yeah. Kind of funny.
You have Alan Rickson or Richson, however you say his name, Henry Cavill. I mean, it's a lot of nothing. Again, this is another movie that maybe didn't have the budget of The Fall Guy, but it kind of has the same problems. It has no engine. It kind of sputters with these constant jokes that just absolutely fail miserably. So this is another one where I was just sitting in the theater like, when the fuck is this going to be over? And I feel bad saying this to some degree because Guy Ritchie has done well recently. I liked Operation Fortune. I think he did Wrath of Man. He did Wrath of Man with
Gentleman on Netflix is incredible.
Yeah, I hate The Gentleman.
He's such a great filmmaker, and this movie was such a dud.
Yeah, and even I'm trying to think the war movie he did with Jake Gyllenhaal where he goes back for his buddy, but
Covenant.
The Covenant or something like that, I think is what it was called. But that wasn't bad. It just had a terrible third act. So I think that I'm hoping Guy Ritchie continues to do good work, but this was like, it didn't come out in theaters in Britain. That's how poorly it was received. It was straight to on demand. But yeah, this is another movie that just was like a kind of torturous watch in the theater. I want to include all these, but in my top 10, but I can't. So number, hold on, 1, 2, 3. Okay, man, I'm struggling so hard to just pick one. Okay, I have to do it. Lisa Frankenstein. This is one of the worst movies in the early part of the year. I'm sorry it doesn't make my top 10, but this is another movie that was just like, again, trying real hard to recreate 80s aesthetics. Takes place in the late 80s. Air Supply, I Can't Fight This Feeling Anymore. Just and kind of these wide comedic swipes that just do not land. It kind of celebrates the fact that the main character is a sociopath, regardless if she has an undead boyfriend or not, or is picked on at school. And I didn't really find the humor in it at all. She just kind of comes off as a genuine, like dangerous, crazy person. So, and it's played for laughs. Diablo Cody wrote the script, and fucking Robin Williams' talentless daughter, Zelda Williams, helmed it. So, there weren't really bright minds behind it to kind of bring it to life and make it work. I mean, again, it's like her stepsister that is the most human out of anybody. So it's just a movie that doesn't work and was just again, one of those early year torturous watches that I really couldn't wait to be over. My second honorable mention would be Blink Twice. Another one I really would like to be in my top 10, but again, just has this narrative of like, it's okay to drug the people that drug you, as long as you make it out with the bag. So just like these women trying to escape from this private island they've been invited to, Epstein Island style. And first of all, they go because they're stupid. And then it's like, oh, let's reveal and unveil the dirt of these like rich people. And somehow that makes it all okay. It's like, why don't you get the fuck off the island? Why don't you make that a priority instead of constantly like, we got to figure this out. It's like, you were stupid enough to end up there. And now you're going to be the hero of the story. Okay, whatever. So that and Channing Tatum, and just you have Simon Rex, who actually I like, but just this is one of the worst movies of the year, and I'm so sorry it's not in my top 10. If you didn't see it when it came out, be grateful. Channing Tatum and Zoe Kravitz made this together as a couple and promptly broke up after. So I don't know what that's like.
Wow, I had no idea they were even a thing.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry that I know things like that, but
well,
yeah,
I was gonna say, so real quick before we go to your actual top 10, I think Ian here has to drop out here for a second.
Yeah,
so
sadly, I'm sorry I couldn't stick around. Sorry about last week. I had some stuff going on with family, which is the reason why I didn't get a chance to make it. But I do appreciate you having me on this week. But thank you so much. It was a lot of fun. Great seeing you guys, and yeah, take care. I'll see you later.
All right, there, man. Thank you very much for joining us here, Ian. Appreciate you. All right, you go on with your. I guess you're at your top 10 or still an honorable mention.
No,
I think you're in your top 10.
Okay, so coming in at number 10 is Challengers. I thought maybe it was unfair to put this in the worst movies of the year, but as Rick always says, who is this movie made for? There's a lot of sort of gimmicky shots with the tennis ball that I was pretty nonplussed with. I just didn't think it was that amazing or interesting. In terms of framing and composition, it's shit. But hey, that's, if you liked it, that's fine. It's basically about two friends who are good at tennis, and they kind of start being interested in Zendaya's character, which is kind of ridiculous. And all throughout, you see them like eating penis-shaped foods like churros and hot dogs, and it's just like, okay, Luca, I know
extremely
they make out. They
is a
make
gay
out
man.
with each other.
Yeah, and it's like, this is for him. This is Luca Guadagnino making a movie for him. He's a gay man who he made Call Me by Your Name. He made Bones and All, Suspiria. His movies are, yes, pretty sexual. So that's to be expected, but I just didn't believe it. I never bought it. With these characters, like that they would act in this way. It's just completely ridiculous. It's a fantasy, a projection, a soap opera of a gay artist trying to, I guess, come to the culmination of saying like, oh, they really want to fuck each other. It's like, at the very end when Zendaya goes, yeah, that stupid bullshit yeah thing. At the very end, it's just like, okay, whatever. And then there's the sauna. It's just like, okay, we get it. You're gay and you're projecting your gayness onto everybody, but it doesn't work. It doesn't congeal. It doesn't come together.
And by the way, isn't this guy going to be the new James Bond?
Supposedly.
That's a future
Rumors.
Bond.
Yeah. And look, whatever. Like I watch all kinds of movies, but at the end of the day, you just have to be interested in the characters and the way they act. Even Zendaya is supposed to be married to Mike Fast, so she fucks Josh O'Connor. Because why? Like I just okay, sure. And so she's a terrible person. Not to mention she's got this scowl on her face for 2 hours or over 2 hours. I don't want to use these people aren't likable, but there's no reason to care about them. Like they're not gigantic in a villainous way. It's just like, oh, they're bland, boring, like everyday people. But I also just don't believe it.
I'll say real quick. I'll just say real quick that when I went to see this movie in the theaters with my cousin, he told me that I fell asleep twice. It's like I remember once, but I did not remember that I actually fell asleep again. And that's considering it had that pulsating techno dance score that's probably going to win original score. Other than that, I was like, that I have very vague memories of this movie because I just apparently fell asleep twice.
Yeah.
And another thing, just real quick, they try so hard to make Zendaya, even at certain parts of the film, look like a grown woman, quote unquote. She looks like a child. And I just couldn't get over the fact that no matter how much they try to change up her look as she ages throughout the course of the movie, she just looks like a Disney kid pretending to be a grown up the entire time in this film. So that's another thing.
You mean the future Mrs. Tom Holland, right?
I mean, if Tom Holland's miserable now, I don't expect his life to get any better once he marries this chick, but that's a whole other conversation. So, Challenger's not great.
Nope. So moving on, I'm going with Beetlejuice. I'm kind of surprised this didn't end up on anyone else's list. This is the same problem as Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, a movie I completely forgot came out. Might have made my honorable mentions, but it's just member berries. It's trying real hard to recreate the magic of the original. Winona Ryder, don't know what the hell she's doing like for the whole movie. Michael Keaton his performance is played out. Well, we have Willem Dafoe yet again. Monica Bellucci has this arc that's sort of like, we're going to present it and then forget about it and then bring it back at the end. So it's just a mess, the whole movie. And it has little of the magic that the original had. The original had incredible production design and had that Danny Elfman score, and it had, you know, performances that you believed in and in characters that you cared for. This has none of that. It has none of that magic. It has none of that creativity or ingenuity that Tim Burton really used to be known for in the late 80s and early 90s. Just a disappointment all around. It's like, this shouldn't, when it got announced, I was like, they should not have made this. Like, this is a mistake. This is a disaster. You know,
I do like the fact how they introduced Monica Bellucci as the villain. She shows up in like the first 10 minutes, and you literally don't see her again to the very end of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, they completely forgot about her, and I didn't like a lot of elements. One thing that I hated was how they wrote off the Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin characters. It's like, you know, what happened to them? Oh, we found a loophole, and they went, and they're now gone, and that was it. That's just terrible. This movie was just confused and confusing. Although I have to admit, I like the Soul Train part. For some weird reason, I found that funny. Like the whole, you know, people going to heaven or hell, to soul music. For some reason, I guess I needed something to find entertaining in all of this. But yeah, there was too many call outs, too many points of logic that just did not fit. Nothing good about this.
Yeah. It was rotten.
Absolutely. Next is coming up, Argyle. So this is a movie I went to see back in February. I think it was the first theater watch of the year for me. I just hated everything about it. It felt like a David Leitch movie, like Bullet Train, but just with absolutely no upside whatsoever. And you had the whole girl boss bullshit with Bryce Dallas Howard. You had Sam Rockwell being, you know, he did the best he could. Ultimately, you're wasting. I'm trying to remember the mom from Home Alone, Catherine
O'Hara. Yeah.
She's a very good actress, very funny, and she's completely ruined. And oh, of course, there's a cat.
CGI cat.
Then there's the stupid skating and the colors and the fucking ice skating routine. And
what was the song? I'm not even trying to remember.
So bad. It's so bad. And it's like, look, I've hated Matthew Vaughn for a long time anyway. I don't think I've seen any of the Kingsman movies, but it just, X-Men First Class wasn't bad. But just, if this is what he's interested in, he should just stop making movies or make TV shows for Apple TV. And look, the fact that this didn't make much money or lost money, it's fine. You know, Apple has a ton of cash and they can afford to just burn through it. But this was atrocious. This was bad of a movie that came out this year, and yet here we are at number 8. You know what I mean? So it's just like, I wish I could be harder on it because that's how miserable I was watching it.
But the thing is that they thought that this was going to be the first part in a series where they were going to eventually include it into the Kingsman universe. And I just, that's one thing that really just, I hate it so much about it. But you know me, I
stopped posting the GIF of "There's only one way to find out."
Oh no, I still got that. I used it on a couple of people, but no, okay. That's not gonna give away. That's not gonna go away.
Yeah, that's bad. So, but moving on here to Gladiator 2, which I was amazed how bad this was. First of all, remember the rave reviews? The rave reviews coming at it wasn't Cannes, was it? Is that where it premiered? Anyway, but here's the thing.
You're muted, Jacob. You're muted, Jacob.
Back up. I was gonna say everything gets rave reviews from Cannes. Everything is a 15-minute standing ovation from Cannes.
No. Megalopolis was not. Was I think booed at Cannes.
Well, I know The Substance was raves, and so was Anora. I think even Mikey Madison won whatever, not the Palme d'Or, but the whatever the best actress award is. I don't know what it's called, but Gladiator 2 was fucking terrible. Like, I always thought the original was overrated, and now I've kind of come around on it where I'm like, oh no, I like it. I know the script is not great, and they literally wrote it on set. So even taking all that into consideration, I think the first one is really an achievement of old Hollywood movie making, and I just mean how it used to be done. Now, same director, Ridley Scott. I don't know what the fuck he's doing. Everybody in power here is either gay, foppish, or a woman. You have a really mediocre main character played by Paul Mescal, who's supposed to be Lucius from the original. You have the embarrassing callbacks like Strength and Honor. Like, I'm sorry, did you not see The Sopranos season 3 making fun of that? Like it's like, where Joey Pantoliano is taking on the persona of a Roman, Roman gladiator fighter. It's like, come on, dude. You know what I mean? And so it's like you just have these things where it's like, did they not give a shit? The baboons are bad. The sharks are bad. Yeah. Like, there's so many things in this that just do not work. He's uninspiring as a lead, Paul Mescal. So
boring.
This was extraordinarily bad for all the money that went into it. And supposedly because it got greenlit pretty quick. The turnaround was quick. Obviously, we weren't going to see Russell Crowe, but you had to have come up with something better than this. And, for the most part, it kind of flopped. It kind of did well for a week and a half. And then, the rest of I think came out during Thanksgiving or maybe earlier November, but it was just a giant disappointment. I was truly surprised how bad it was coming out of this one. So,
yep, not great.
Moving on to The Crow. I had no expectations for this one. And frankly, I watched the original just after. It's okay. I think it's a little overrated, frankly, but that's fine. It's a good movie. It is a good movie. This has nothing to do with that. This is just like, we need a cash grab. We've got a property. We've got the names. Let's see if we can make something halfway decent. And they utterly failed, just completely failed. It has almost nothing in common with its predecessor or its, the original. And yeah, it's the couple are kind of drugged out artist types, and Danny Houston tries to ham it up somewhat, but it's just dead on arrival. This movie just has nothing going on. And another one where you're just kind of counting down the minutes. We're just kind of waiting for these plot mechanics to finish themselves out. But and you guys have really hit on all the key points here with The Crow. But
the interesting thing is that Bill Skarsgård has had both like movies that have been in the best and the worst lists.
Yep. I think his best performance was Boy Kills World.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that. That was, and then we have this, and then we have Nosferatu, where he's like the Transylvanian Robotnik. So it's just, who knows what he's thinking.
Yeah.
Apparently he's the oddball in the family.
Yeah. So moving on here, we are entering my top 5 is Monkey Man. You guys pretty much already nailed it, but Dev Patel can't direct. He has no idea what composition is. He doesn't have the choreographer that John Wick had, that's for sure. So I really don't know what the hell he's doing. Oh yeah, and another movie produced by Jordan Peele. So he just keeps adding movies to his failure list. But and I like Dev Patel enough to give it a shot, to give him a chance. This is not it. And then you've got your tranny warriors, which is some Hindu god or something. I don't know. I don't really care. But and you've got corrupt politicians in it, and it's just a mess. It has no clear direction. And again, you can try again, Dev Patel. But not as a director, because there's nothing in this that showed me that he has a future in filmmaking. He should stay in front of the camera. Let other people.
Yeah, he's a good enough actor. He doesn't need to direct.
Or at least try to maybe direct something like some sort of costume picture. Contact Merchant Ivory. See if you can do something.
Yeah. Number 4 is Joker Folie à Deux. This is another one where, you heard it in the reviews. You heard the reaction, how bad it was.
Yep.
Nothing could have really prepared you for what that movie was. And I don't even love the original. I did like it more when it came out, kind of in retrospect and watching it again. It's fine. But as such a big fan of Scorsese and Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, it's hard to sort of see the creativity there. But this one is just like, never fall in love or befriend anybody, because they'll just screw you over and knife you to death. And it's like Livia Soprano just being like, they're all going to laugh at you. You know, it's like but that's what it is. It's like there's no hope, there's no sense of justice. It's just you're gonna be sodomized and knifed and left for dead, and that's gonna be it. So again, I understand fans kind of just being like, "Fuck this movie," but just anybody. Here's the thing: anybody who loves movies, who watches this, that should be their takeaway anyway, because it's such a soulless, life sucking property. It has no goodwill. It has no humanity to it. And like, here's the thing: if you're gonna just show blatant suffering, you gotta it has to be more interesting and nuanced than what they show here, where Lady Gaga just basically like lifts this guy up and then destroys him. It's like, oh yeah, this is not real, and I don't care, and bye. So yeah, I'm not even a comic book movie fan, and this pissed me off. So I can't imagine, you know, why it's. I mean, I understand why it's so hated. I can't imagine what other people were going through.
Well,
I'm
just curious. Was reminded that little fanboy that he had, that like, I've never been kissed before, and I want to kiss you. It's like, what was the point of his character in this whole smorgasbord of horror? And then I think he gets killed off too, or like they kill him before they rape him. It just it's just a mess of a script. It's just a mess overall.
All right, number 3. I don't think this one made anyone's list, but by far one of the most annoying movies of the year is Drive Away Dolls. Drive Away Dolls.
Hey, that made my list.
Okay. It's just incredible how fucking.
Never even heard of it.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I didn't see it.
Again, the irony here is Margaret Qualley gives, I think, one of the best performances of the year. My pick for Best Supporting Actress for The Substance. She probably gives the worst supporting actress performance of the year in Drive Away Dolls. She plays like a southern twangy lesbian who I guess
sounds like Foghorn Leghorn.
Yeah, and she does it for comedic effect. And it's really bad. And then of course she has her more like pared down conservative, like Indian best friend who of course they fall in love because she finds out that she really likes women. And you know, it's just, and then you know, there's someone after them because the car they rented, you know, had this basically MacGuffin. You know, it's the same thing like Pulp Fiction with the suitcase. And you know, you've got I'm trying to think of his name. He was in Rustin last year, but Coleman Domingo. And then you've got I forget who the politician was now, but like Matt Damon. That's right. We're just gonna have Matt Damon in here show up randomly and just be like, oh, this is the guy who's, you know, gay life we're trying to hide. And it's, I don't know, there's really dumb comedic beats like you know, like being Democrats. They're like, they say like, oh, we're Democrats. It's like the Democratic Party hated gay people in the 90s. Shut the fuck up. Like pretend like doing this retcon of like, oh, hey, we're Democrats because we're the progressives. It's like,
especially the southern ones, right?
Right. I mean, Bill Clinton was never going to be like pro gay marriage or whatever. So it's just there's all kinds of stupid shit like that in it, and it's really embarrassing. And then of course at the end of the movie they like meet the Indian chick's like aunt or something, and they're like, you know, oh, she's one of the cool ones, like wink wink. So it was an embarrassing movie all over. Beanie Feldstein, Jonah Hill's sister's in it as like the cop. And
oh god, that's his sister.
Isn't
the
Pedro Pascal in this? Or
I think you're right, in the beginning before he's killed. Yeah. Now
I have a question. Since I did not see this, I deliberately avoided it because you guys kept going on about how awful it was, and you even threatened to make me watch it. Whose southern accent is worse, Haley Qualley or Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc?
Margaret Qualley.
Margaret Qualley, sorry,
she's never mind. Not gonna say that. No, but yeah, I think Daniel Craig's is worse just because it's I don't know, that's more played straight than Qualley's is. But yeah, it's like, again, at the end of the day, it's like it's just a bad performance all around. You know what I mean? But
yeah, it's there's a big elephant in the room you missed about that movie, but I'll circle back around to it on my list.
Well,
it's actually even worse than what he described.
Oh no, I'm sure it is. I haven't seen it in almost a year, so yeah, so do I. But that's fine. I
thought you wanted to marry me, Spencer.
Nobody wants to marry each other.
Moving on is number 2. I Saw the TV Glow. So this was a movie I wanted to make fun of from the start, ever before I saw it, because of who the director is. So you can look that up on your own. And look, whatever, it's fine. You know, the fact that people get to make movies who have no clear idea how plot, narrative, character development, character arcs, any of that works, any of those elements of movie making works. I'm just going to make a movie on my feelings. Okay. And the feelings are that of a sort of like a eunuch, someone who has no dick, someone who has no sex drive, someone who can't feel anything, is just a completely cut off automaton. It's, who is the most sensitive and the most, unable to hear any other perspective. It's that kind of bland movie. And it's just like, these characters that I guess, it's an allegory for being trans or whatever, but it's like, okay, but nobody would want to befriend these people. They have no personality. There's nothing that's connecting the audience to them other than, I guess, an overt sense of camaraderie of the struggle, whatever the fuck that is. So it's like we all, and maybe speaking generally, we all deal with, that coming of age period differently, but all of us have gone through it. All of us struggle at times to, feel like we fit in or what, but it's like get the fuck over it. Like every generation before you has, and it's figured it out. And you're not special. This idea that this is a new special thing that's unique and needs to be understood on its own. No, it doesn't. It's nonsense. You just reject it and you move on. But yeah, this is just a completely lifeless, bland movie filled with people that you don't want to spend any time with. I can't make it any more clear than that. And that's it right there. What Eternal Code said, theater kids. Theater kid. And see, here's the thing. I'll be honest with you guys. I probably would have been a theater kid if I didn't have self-awareness. But I'd be like, no, I'm fine being a loner. You know what I mean? But I would never like join those people. Okay. And if any of you are theater kids, I'm sorry. I really do mean the sort of negative, super needy, emotionally needy, you need to constantly affirm what I'm saying. You need to, deeply insecure. Just please get away from me. Please get away from me. So that's, I saw the TV Glow. Can't recommend it any less. Number one, this is truly an exceptionally bad movie. When I saw it, I ran to the Barroom podcast chat. Okay, I can't run in a digital space, but seriously, I went right there to be like, this is the worst movie of the year. There's just no comparison. It is the absolute worst thing that came out in 2024. Amelia Perez. When I was told what the plot was, like I saw the clips on social media, I couldn't believe this was a real movie. When I was told the plot was this drug dealer drug lord, whatever, who becomes a woman, it's like yeah, that's literally a joke on SNL. That's a satire of like where we are currently, that you could use something like your identity as a woman to get away from being charged as a criminal. Like that's something you would almost expect somebody to try that, because that's kind of how the sociopathic criminal mind works. And so the fact that you made a narrative movie about the struggle of this person is not only laughable, it's insane. It's what a crazy person would do. Literally. It's like, oh, the Academy Awards rules changed this year. Let's literally swing for the fences for the craziest, most batshit idea we can possibly come up with. And the fact that it's a fucking musical on top of it, it's like it's the most batshit executed idea that I think I've ever seen. And guess what? I've seen over 5,700 movies that can be counted on Letterboxd. Like, it's insane. Like, I have never seen a movie that went that far to be abrasively challenged, like just constantly alienating its audience. And look, there might be a vocal minority online that loves it. A lot of the trans community fucking hates it. And Mexicans fucking hate it too. And so it's like, I think it'll be hilarious if this gets nominated, because it's like everybody, all the people I've seen that talk about it absolutely fucking hate it. So I didn't even have to take this and run with it. People already did it for me, and I get to just kind of read it. And so in that regard, it's pretty funny. It's pretty entertaining, but I was blown away that this was an actual movie, that it wanted the audience to take it seriously, and that it's a huge awards contender with acting nominations. And I'm like, what? Okay. Maybe movies are over if this is really what we're going to end up celebrating. Like, I thought it was bad enough when things like Black Panther won, or was nominated, or Everything Everywhere All at Once is a massive piece of shit. I hated that movie. So like some of those Nomadland, there's some picks over the last couple of years that I'm like, yeah, okay, it's laughable, and we're going down. We have a downward trajectory. This would be the nail in the coffin for me. If this gets nominated and it wins, I honestly think movies are done. And I don't want to be hyperbolic saying that, but it's like, dude, this is what you want to represent you, the Academy. You're a fucking joke.
No, this will get nominated. There's very little chance that it will not. It's just how many it will get nominated for. And I know many Mexican and Mexican Americans who absolutely hate this. I think Polly, the Latino Slant, absolutely hates it. Many Mexicans that I see on just Twitter, not film Twitter, but just actual Twitter, say, you know what? It's like Americans we need to make a musical about September 11th, because apparently you guys think that the drug wars that have killed millions or hundreds of thousands of people, you think that's the subject of a musical. You're a Frenchman. The guy who made this is a Frenchman who didn't even bother knowing anything about Mexican culture. He didn't hire any actual Mexicans except for like the Emilia Perez's lover, when when the manitas, little hands, becomes a woman. That's the only actual Mexican in the cast. You casted an American. Emilia Perez, I think, is a Spaniard, and Zoe Saldana, who is of Dominican descent. So that's bad enough. And then just making it into a musical with just absolutely terrible songs. For all the fun that people have about, penis to vagina, vagina to penis, all of that, that was even pointless because they didn't even go to that doctor. They went to an Israeli doctor to do that. It's like, I'm going, you're wasting my time. This movie is like over 2 hours long. Like, I want to say 2.5, something like that. It's just terrible. You're not going to make Manitas into a saint. It's unbelievably bad. It played like parody. I think that's what I wrote in my review. It plays like parody. It plays like a complete joke. And so many people who are adamant that it's going to, get best foreign language or best picture, best actress, it's probably going to win best supporting actress. I'm telling you now, prepare yourself for Zoe Saldana to take the Oscar for her mal, that big dance number that was just utterly trash.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Go ahead.
I can make the case that Margaret Qualley gave a better performance, and literally she's just fucking shaking her ass in spandex. So, and I'm sure there is a good best supporting actress that deserves it outside those two. But it's like, if Zoe Saldana is going to be the nominee,
she will be nominated. She's in SAG.
She might even win. Like I said, this movie is going to dominate the award season this year, and I'll talk about it here when we get to my list. But yeah, that's what's going to happen.
It's just, Mexican Americans hate it beyond the Selena Gomez thing. And again, I'm not blaming her for her bad Spanish. It's just real bad filmmaking, and just the slate of potential Best Picture nominees. Granted, I've not seen Anora, and I know that you liked it, Rob, but all the others, Conclave, Emilia Perez, it's just unbelievably bad, the run that we're going to get. Maybe with the exception of Dune, which I liked, and I know you guys were like iffy on, I can't think of like a film that isn't even worth it. This has been a lousy year.
It's going to be a Green Book year, if you know what I mean. It's the movie that wins is going to be like the most milquetoast boomer movie, so that's going to be a complete unknown. That's what I'm hoping for, because the alternative, if Black Klansman would have won, especially with the Alec Baldwin racist tirade at the very beginning of the movie, which was the only funny part of the movie, is just like, okay, yeah, Trump is like the KKK. You're right. Good job.
And the thing is that Emilia Perez is really loved, like you said, a vocal minority who just think the world of it. But if you see the ratings, I think on Letterboxd, it is one of the lowest rated potential Best Picture nominees. Crash is the only one that I think Crash is better liked on Letterboxd than Emilia Perez. And
I just think it's funny that that's how much of a contrarian I am. I literally will defend Crash every fucking day of my life because it's like, yeah, I get what people see. I also see like a movie that's worth digesting and worth going over. But you know, to a lot of people, it's an after school special. I get it. I still don't think it's a terrible movie, but that's me.
Yeah.
So I will go on with this. I'll go ahead and end this one with my list here. I do have some honorable mentions, and the honorable mentions for me were kind of tough because some of these movies are movies that deserve to be in the top 10 worst of a year if it wasn't so bad of a year. So just because it's in my honorable mentions does not mean it was not a horrific movie. It just so happens that there had to be a lot of other movies that are above this one. My first one was Wicked. Finally got around to watching all nearly 3 hours of Wicked, and for this being a 3 hour of a part one of a movie that wasn't even that good to begin with, I was just absolutely dumbfounded by this film. I know some of our people here like this movie. They like the musical aspects of it. I could not muster up the energy to care about anything that was going on with this movie. I'm not enthralled with either starlet, I guess you can call them, of this film, Cynthia or Ariana Grande. This movie just didn't appeal to me at all. Keep in mind, this is not The Wizard of Oz. This is based off of a play that very much perverts the original Wizard of Oz movie. Extremely gay, just in case you guys didn't know that stuff's in there too. So if that's just your type of thing, very well go all in on it. I just generally did not feel anything for this movie. Entirely too long. If this was maybe like if they cut like an hour out of this one, they're probably far more digestible. But like I said, this is a part one of another movie that we probably won't see until next year, or I think even the year after. So
Yeah. Jacob,
go ahead.
Real quick, the actual Broadway show lasts from Act 1 and Act 2 lasts as long as the first half of this movie. I mean, part one.
And that's why only theater nerds love this movie. I just don't understand. Like, to me, it's just absolutely not, no way at all. Another honorable mention is Dear Santa, because I know I'm going to go really, really hard on Justice Smith here in a minute. I think Jack Black might be my second least favorite actor in the entire world universe right now. He's a guy who I've never at any point has ever thought has been funny in anything. And this is back when people were defending him in Orange County and Nacho Libre and a few other things, even Tropic Thunder. It's like, I've never found this man to be funny in anything ever in my life. I don't see what's the big draw of him. I don't get the whole cult of Tenacious D. He's never been entertaining in anything that I've ever seen him in whatsoever. So this one is definitely just a stupid idea of a movie. It's like, oh yeah, he tries to write a letter to Santa. It turns out it's Satan. And it's like, now Satan's gonna somehow be this kid's like father figure or some nonsense like that for 2 hours of the movie. It's like, well, we did not need this film at all. Like I said, probably would have been a lot higher on my list, but this one, it's just one of those bad years, and then this one just happened to be on an honorable mention. This is gonna surprise some people. Honorable mention, Joker 2, and it's not because I not like Joker 2. This one probably would have been in my top 10 had I not seen another movie that we just talked about here earlier tonight as well. We'll get to that here in a second. This film just got knocked down into my honorable mention list. This is a spit in the face to everyone who loved the first Joker movie. Warner Brothers and the people at Hollywood, I guess, were disturbed by the target audience or the people who actually liked the first Joker movie. So this was a direct spit in the face to those people. This is a direct FU middle finger by Warner Brothers, a film studio who, keep in mind, cannot afford to lose money at this current point in time. That's exactly what they're doing, making crap like this. Everything about it, Joker gets booty gooned at some point of the film by a bunch of guards. It's never implied, but it's like he just gets dragged away like in his underwear. So we're just supposed to say, oh, he just got beat up by nightsticks. Why do you need to be in his underwear to get beat up by nightsticks? That makes no sense whatsoever. His gay friend also gets killed, and then at the one point in the movie where you actually think, oh, he's finally going to be the Joker now, it's like, no, he just has an emotional breakdown. He loses his girl, who, one of the worst sex scenes I've ever seen in my entire life, where he literally lasts for like all of like 3 seconds. It was literally like a pump and a half, and he was done. And then somehow she got pregnant from that. So it's like, that would be embarrassing to tell me and my kids. But she dumps him at the end of the movie. Then he literally ends up being stabbed to death. And the last scene that we see in the movie is his dying face zooming into the camera. So that's Joker 2 in a nutshell. You say you can't make myself watch that. No, there's nothing for you to watch. If you actually enjoy the first Joker movie, do not watch this movie whatsoever. This is an absolutely abomination of a film in every way, shape, or form you could think of. Terrible, terrible movie. Next honorable mention here. Like I said, these are honorable mentions. These aren't even the worst on my list here. Challengers. Out of all the movies on this list, I think that there's more redeeming qualities about this movie than all the other ones that I'm going to talk about here. But this is like the whole thing with Zendaya. They're trying so hard to push her to be a bigger thing than what she actually is, and it's almost like you're trying to gaslight me into believing that this woman is attractive and she's a top figure, and she's just not. And I find it very, very entertaining that there's so many people in the Euphoria camp that are now turned against Sydney Sweeney because her star has risen here over the last couple of years, and they think it's taken away from Zendaya. So now there's this whole civil war going on here, and I just found it very, very hilarious that she's getting outshined. This film does absolutely nothing for me. Did not care about the two guys who were clearly gay for one another, and I figured the ending will just be like, okay, you guys are just in love, to just admit it and stop beating around the bush with like the whole thing. Like, you remove this girl from the entire picture here. This is not a love triangle by any stretch of the imagination. Then again, Hollywood doesn't know what love is anymore because it's just the way that it goes. Like I said, there's no good guys in this movie at all. It's just a movie about a bunch of dirtbags. Like, she's a dirtbag. Those two are dirtbags. You're just watching 2 hours of them being the absolute scum of the earth. And at the end of the film, they just make up and get together towards the end, and we're supposed to be happy. It's like, okay. I mean, there's a few interesting scenes with the tennis action that I thought was pretty interesting, but they really didn't have anything more than that. And the more I thought about it, the more I hated it. So yeah, that is what is this? Challengers in a nutshell. A total garbage of a film. So that's my other honorable mention. And then the last honorable mention I'll have here is Lisa Frankenstein. This is the Diablo Cody movie. Now, what's her name? Catherine Newton. I actually do kind of like Catherine Newton. I think she has a spunk as an actress, which is certainly why she's been cast in a few things. She was in the film Abigail earlier this year that I actually really liked too. But this movie has nothing positive going about it. It's a woman who I guess Diablo Cody thinks is the good guy in this scenario, or the good girl in this scenario, but she's an absolute complete psychopath during the entire movie. I think she killed one guy because he mistakenly taken like a sexual advance towards her and accidentally grabbed her boob, and it was like one of those things where it's just kind of an awkward moment, and in the context of the film it was like, oh yeah, that's justification of you killing that guy. So that was weird. One guy gets his dick cut off at a certain point in the movie, and you just gotta ask yourself, like, is this supposed to be a comedy? Because I don't think that it was listed as that or anything. Her stepmother also gets murdered because she was kind of a bitch one time, which this film has a really messed up view of morality, and I don't really know exactly what the end result or the point of this film was when it was all said and done. So this is a movie that had a whole bunch of things, everything from necrophilia to murder to psychopathy, and I guess it's supposed to be one of those like intriguing teen comedy things that just did not work out for me at all. So yeah, this is definitely one I would throw up there as just barely missing the top 10 of my worst list. So those are all my honorable mentions for worst movies of 2024. So you think to yourself, what can be actually worse than all of that? A lot. Let's start with number 10, a movie that I debated about putting on this list because, like I said, it's the only movie on the entire list that's actually so bad I actually found it a bit more entertaining, and that is Madam Web. This is a movie that is awful right out of the gate, and it makes no qualms about how bad it is. The first 5 to 10 minutes, the acting is laughable in multiple instances. There's one scene where they're driving in a car, and I think some kind of like 90s pop music is playing. Meanwhile, there's somebody like actively dying in the back of the ambulance, but everyone's treating it like an episode of like Friends or like Dawson's Creek or something like that. You put all of these younger, attractive actresses in the film, but then you don't put them in costume at all. They're only a dream sequence that you see them as their characters to begin with. There's a weird scene where everyone's dancing on a table to Britney Spears' Toxic. And it's a movie that is just like, this may be one of the worst of the Sony movies ever, but it's actually entertaining. Dakota Johnson absolutely torpedoed this movie because during the promotion of this film, she basically told everyone what a giant piece of crap it was and how she refused to watch her own movie, which certainly didn't help matters. definitely didn't bring any butts to the seats. When the star of the movie ducked out of her own premiere because she didn't want to watch the movie. That's how bad it was, and justifiably so. So Dakota Johnson gets an A+ just for that alone, refusing to endorse her own movie that she made. And then Sony's pretty upset with her too, so we'll see how that affects her career. But yeah, this is just a movie that, if it wasn't so entertainingly bad, it would probably be a little bit higher on the list. But this is one of the movies was like, wow, this is just a bad film from start to finish here. So Madam Web is my number 10 worst movie of the year. My number 9 worst movie of the year is a movie called My Old Ass. It stars Aubrey Plaza, who somehow her younger 16, 17-year-old self does like some kind of psychedelic drugs, and then she somehow communicates with her 40-year-old self. So her 40-year-old self basically tells her 17-year-old self not to fall in love with some guy. I don't even remember the guy's name. It's not even that important, but don't fall in love with some guy. And that's literally the only advice that she gives her. So she goes away for about 2 hours of the movie, and then she's trying to figure out, why do you not want me to fall in love with this guy? And you come back at the very end. It's like, oh, it's because he dies. And I don't want you to fall in love with someone you can't have. And
is that weird that her
Go ahead.
husband just committed suicide? And like, because I remember you talking about this movie earlier, how it wasn't good, but I was like, well, what happens to the guy again? Doesn't he die? And it's like,
Yep, dies. And there's nothing that they can do to stop it. And of course, Aubrey Plaza's husband just committed suicide not too long ago, so it's not exactly a great time for her either. But the whole context of this film is that you have a quote unquote biracial girl who's struggling with going full on into heterosexuality, and that's the entire film for nearly 2 hours. So
what?
yes,
The biracial who's struggling to get into.
sorry, bisexual. I didn't say bi. Her girlfriend is actually biracial, but she's bisexual, so it's one of those type of films.
Hey.
Yeah.
Well, they're really aiming to qualify for that diversity, diversity quota for the best picture there.
Yeah, you notice that a lot of the films on these worst lists have some kind of theme of LGBTQ nonsense trickled into it, and this film is no different here. I saw the trailer and I thought maybe this could be interesting because I was kind of comparing it to another movie that kind of had a similar concept here, but it's like that movie did not have anything at all. I think I almost walked out at one point. That's how bad that film was. So not very good. It saved the whole thing. You can miss it. You're not missing anything. That's a terrible movie. Next movie on my list, number 8, is a film called Monkey Man. Rob talked about it a little bit earlier here. Dev Patel decides that he is going to direct his own movie, and because Jordan Peele is the producer here, there has to be some level of social justice inserted into the film. So you find out later on that he tries to kill a guy who I guess killed his mother several years earlier. That plan fails miserably, and he's almost killed, but then somehow he gets housed by a group of underground transgender warriors who have been basically forced into living into like the backwoods of India because they're being oppressed by their government. And not even making this up, it's the whole theme of this film is about indigenous transgender warriors promoting the quote unquote the third gender. And coming towards the end of this film, they all circle back around when they decide to stop hiding out in the woods. It's like, no, we're gonna come back and help our protagonist here, Mr. Monkey Man. And there's this scene where it's basically a bunch of like, criminal bad guys versus a bunch of dudes in wigs, and they all look like, Aztecian warriors. The whole thing is like so stupid in so many aspects of this film. The whole thing of Monkey Man, because obviously Rick was mentioning this earlier, it's based on some kind of like demonic Hindu god that's worshipped in India, where it's part man, part monkey, and he rips open his chest. You can all see his heart, and apparently that's like a gateway to like another universe or dimension or some nonsense like this. Everything about this movie is stupid and it's bad, and the more I thought about it, the more I actually hated it. I don't even actually hate Dev Patel. Like I like Dev Patel in some things, but this was not one of them. So it's enough with these social justice action. We don't need a woke John Wick. We really do not need woke John Wick. Save this nonsense or somebody else. That's my number 8 film of the year. Number 7 is Borderlands. If Borderlands is a movie where if this was like 20 years ago, this would probably be number 1 on a lot of people's lists because it's just a typical bad movie from start to finish, kind of one of those mainstream bad movies where everyone in this film looks like they're like at a Comic-Con doing cosplay. They don't actually look like the characters that they're portraying whatsoever here in this movie. Kevin Hart's supposed to be like some tough action guy. He's like 5'2". That never works out well. Kate Blanchett is playing a character who I'm swear is at least 25 years younger than the actress is in real life, and she looks every bit of her age in this movie because of the clown makeup they have her in the entire film. Once again, this is another movie that Jack Black is in, so that doesn't help matters. Everything. This is a terrible, terrible Hollywood studio movie because somebody thought that, hey, Borderlands was popular 15 years ago. It was a popular video game, so let's make a movie about it. And then let's wait 15 years after that video game's been popular to make a film about said video game and then make that said video game movie really, really terrible. I mean, there's really just nothing more to say about this. Is just a bad movie. Like, this is a dry, terrible film from start to finish. This is a movie that if we weren't doing so much perversive and just subversive movies in 2024, this would probably be number one on a lot of people's list just due to how absolutely abhorrent this film is. So that's my number number 7 movie for a worst film of 2024. This one's going to be a little bit controversial because you can argue I should probably have it a bit higher. But Amelia Perez, we talked about this movie here. I actually went back to saw it because apparently this is going to be the movie of 2024. This is going to be, all the awards are going to be given to this film. This is going to clean house. And it's all because it's a movie about a trans protagonist who, keep in mind, is a violent drug lord, a violent leader of a drug cartel in Mexico, who gets to a point where there's so much heat on him, her, they, it, I don't know what you want to say here in 2024 anymore, that she decides that, I'm going to transition into a woman. And Zoe Saldana's, what's her name, character here, is that her name, Zoe Saldana? I thought of thinking Zoe Kravitz there for a second, I don't know why, but
yeah, Zoe Saldana.
Yeah, so she's in the film. She can't sing at all, and somehow she won a Golden Globes. That just goes to tell you how bad this film is. Selena Gomez is also in the film as well, pretending to be Mexican, which is weird because she actually is Mexican, and she feels like she's pretending to be Mexican in the movie. So that's how awful this film is in every metric. The only reason anyone's pretending that this movie is good, especially in the Hollywood Academy, is because it gives them a spotlight to highlight trans issues and trans. It's going to be all trans going into this award season. SAG, Golden Globes, Academy. This is all that's going to be. Nobody actually likes this movie. It has bad reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, bad reviews on Letterboxd, bad reviews. Anyone who's seen this movie thinks that it's absolute shite. And the only reason why it's getting propped up in any way, shape, or form is because, we can dangle that trans carrot around. And especially since Trump is coming back around in 9 days, he'll be president again. So we can really weaponize this movie against Trump. And that's the only reason why anyone's talking about this film. This film is absolute dog water, dog doo-doo garbage film.
Jacob, a couple of points. First, you know that song that Zoe Saldana does, that's what's going to win Best Original Song. So you know that song, where she does that dance.
We all know that song. That's the problem.
That's what's going to win. Secondly, with Selena Gomez's character, I was never sure if she was supposed to be a Mexican American who just married Manitas, Little Hands, this vicious drug lord who's named Little Hands, or if she was actually supposed to be Mexican, like an actual Mexican national. The movie does not make that clear. For some reason, she slips into English every so often. A Mexican wouldn't slip into English, and a Mexican American would, but then it explains her kind of very robotic Spanish. It's confused in that part. So the movie's bad, just on that level. I mean, on many levels. But if you can't clarify what the character is, why do you keep praising it? I mean, why do people keep praising it so much?
As Rob's favorite quote over the last several months, you know why. And that's all I have to say about this film. You wonder why anyone's talking positively about it. It's like, you know why. Number 5 is a film called Drive Away Dolls, and yes, it actually did make my list, but there's a few notes here that Rob left out. This is a film that is directed and co-written by Ethan Coen, and he co-wrote it with his wife. And the whole story of this film is about his wife's escapades in the 1990s when she would go around the southern United States looking for women to sleep with, because she's openly a lesbian too, even though they're married, and which makes no sense whatsoever. But they decided they were going to team up to make this film. The whole plot, and I'm using that term very, very loosely here, of this movie is that 2 lesbians go down to Florida because she wants to get her friend laid because her friend hasn't had sex with another woman in quite some time. Somehow they get caught up in some kind of government conspiracy where Matt Damon's character is trying to remove evidence that he had a sex toy done when he in the 1970s. I guess that's what it plots back to. And there's these weird flashback scenes with Miley Cyrus where she's just dancing like every 10 minutes throughout the movie, and it just keeps going over and over again so they explain what's happening. This is a movie that's not even 90 minutes long. It's barely even 80 minutes long. I think if you actually cut out the end scenes, you're only going to have like a 78-minute movie. This is dog shit. There's no really safer way to say it. This is absolute doo-doo from start to finish. Margaret Qualley sounds like she's playing Foghorn Leghorn, pretending to be Foghorn Leghorn throughout the entire film, and no one talks about how terrible her accent is. Like, she can go to like Louisiana in Cajun country, and they will be like, "Why are you talking like that?" But that's literally like how bad her accent is throughout the movie. What's her name? Glenadine Vander Nathan, whatever her name is. The one here on the left, she has the personality of a wet blanket, and it never improves throughout any scene of the movie whatsoever. So even for you gooners out there who's like, oh, a movie about lesbians, I'll go. No, then you're not getting that either. This isn't a porn parody, so there's literally no redeeming value here about this movie. So just stay home and don't watch it. And Ethan Coen should probably get a divorce rather than subjugating the United States of America to the plights of his failing marriage. So that's all I have to say here about Drive Away Dolls. Yeah, a dog water movie. Number 4 is a movie that you guys are going to be shocked to hear it's only number 4. It's a movie called Babes. This is a movie that I saw earlier this year, and I think I even said that if this film is not in my top 3, then we're in trouble, and it just barely missed my top 3. This is Anana Glazer is her name. She's a chick from Broad City, so I'm not sure if you guys remember Broad City. It was a Comedy Central show from like 10 years ago now. Honestly, it came out the same time around like Workaholics, so I guess they were trying to go for like a female equivalent of that. And even watching that show in retrospect, it was literally about a couple of 30-year-old women who act like teenagers, who do the same thing of casual sex, drugs, debauchery, and it's supposed to be funny because it's women doing it. So it's typical women comedy in 2024. I think everyone is tired of it at this point in time. This movie is essentially more than that. The plot here is that she is in a relationship with her best friend who's married, but they act like they're the ones that are in a relationship the entire time. She decides to have a one-night stand with someone who she met on the subway, and then the very next night he gets hit by a car. So black guy dies, and then she realizes that she's pregnant. So now she has to raise this kid with her best friend because she had a one-night stand with a guy who literally died less than 24 hours after they conceived the child. And there's a lot of progressive comedy that's in here. This is supposed to be relatable to the modern woman. I don't know who this is relatable to, unless you live in like the most debaucherous parts of New York City and in Los Angeles. I don't think that this film relates to any woman whatsoever. And it's not funny. It's painfully not funny. I remember on the bar room, I played you guys a little clip of Anana's stand-up comedy. Remember that one from a few months ago? If you guys love that, you're going to love this movie because it's basically more of the same. So this is another movie that I'm kind of surprised is not number 1 with a bullet on my list. But unfortunately, there's 3 films that are actually worse than this year in the year of our Lord 2024. So we're very, very awful here. Sarah, just real quick here. Is that a movie that you'd be interested to see with one of the gals? Is that a film that intrigues you as a woman?
Not at all.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't being nearly as misogynist as I was being, but
I don't think that I'm the kind of woman that would be their target audience anyway, though. So
yeah, probably not. Number 3 is the American Society of Magical Negroes. Like I said, this is the second most racist film that came out in 2024. The whole concept of this film is that Justice Smith, who may be literally the worst actor in Hollywood today, he is a very, very effeminate and non-threatening black man who white people find comfort around. So as a result of this, he is recruited to be in the Magical Society of Negroes because, as we all know, when white people get uncomfortable, black people die. So there's a group of black people who come together to keep white people calm so that the black people won't die. And because this guy is basically an effeminate pushover, he's a perfect candidate to be that person. So his whole job is to keep this like marketing tech guru guy in check so that he doesn't lose his crap. But then there's also the subplot of, oh, he fell in love with some woman that the white guy's in love with. And at no point in time throughout this entire movie do you actually believe that there's any romantic chemistry between Justice Smith and this woman at all. Nor do you even believe for one frame of this movie that he's actually straight. And that's kind of a big problem here with the film when you're trying to tell a romantic story here between these two. And there's absolutely no chemistry between these two whatsoever. They don't even pretend to have any chemistry whatsoever. It goes on and on and on, and it's like, it's not entertaining, it's not funny. There's some fat black woman who I guess is like the magical Negro fairy who just like comes and flies in her magical dust, and you can just tell like they needed a very, very big crane to hoist her up in front of all these people here. It's just absolutely nonsensical. Then you get to the end, and this is what pushes it over. When you get to the end, you find out that Justice Smith has finally had enough because I guess the white guy wanted to do some kind of like presentation about how he was helping diversity or some nonsense, and he wanted Justice to present, and it's like, oh, so you only want me here because I'm the black guy? And he goes on to have this whole emotional meltdown about how he just wants to live, and you know, he shouldn't have to feel this way in white America, how everyone wants him dead. It's like, first of all, dude, you're barely black. So let's start there. You're barely African American, right? You're what we like to call a African American. Like, your mom's probably white, so let's stop with the whole I'm black for fist power. Like, no, you're absolutely not. The director and the writer of this film is one of the guys who came from The Daily Show, who looks just like Justice Smith. So then you start realizing, oh, this is basically the writer and director, his therapy session put on the paper that he put in the movie theaters and disguised it as a movie. So that's essentially what you're watching here. You're watching a effeminate biracial man lash out at white America in the city of Los Angeles, need I remind you, because apparently he can't handle the fact that white people or something. And that's basically the film in a nutshell. Justice Smith is an absolute ass clown, and keep in mind, he'll come back around here soon because he's also on my list in the top 3 in another film that we'll talk about here. But the number 2 worst movie of 2024 is the most racist movie of 2024, and it is The Book of Clarence. Now, for those of you guys who don't know what the Book of Clarence is all about, Clarence is the name of the founder of the 5% Nation, an offshoot of the Nation of Islam, which is a race-based cult that brewed in New York in the 1960s. And let me give you guys a quick little rewind here about how they believe. Nation of Islam started in the 1930s. They believe some white man named Elijah Muhammad was God. They even went as far to call him Allah. They basically tried to pull black people out of the black church to this subsect of Islam that even actual Muslims deny is actually Islam as well. So make that make sense. And then some guy in the 60s came along and was like, hey, wait a minute, Elijah's too white to be God. And if the black man is God, he can't be God. So I'm going to create my own religion that says that the black man is really God. And the reason why this is all sprouted out is because a lot of rappers in the New York area have bought into this cult. So you look back like A Tribe Called Quest, Busta Rhymes, all these New York-based rappers, and one of them just so happens to be Jay-Z. So Jay-Z produced this movie, which is a retelling of the biblical story of the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. However, in Jerusalem, everyone is black because, the race-based cult believes that, everything started with the black man, so they have to tell the story from a black man. And the story is about a man named Clarence, who, I'm not making this up, is a drug dealer in Jerusalem. So even in the setting of Jerusalem 33 AD, they still have to make him a hustler because they have to stay authentic to the culture. That's what we're doing here in this film. And the whole thing is that he hears about a guy named Jesus, who's also black, by the way. There's a shocker. And he decides, well, hey, Jesus is popular, so I'm going to tell everyone that I'm the Messiah. I'm going to tell everyone that faith and that knowledge is more important than faith. And then I'm going to get everyone to give me money so I can pay off my debts. So that way the drug goons won't kill me. So throughout the course of this film is about a blasphemous idiot who tries to take the glory of being the Messiah. Then he falls into the wrong hands with the Roman government, which the Roman government stayed white. I'm glad they did that. They had to make that distinction that the Roman, they're still the bad guys, so they still remain white. James McAvoy plays the head Roman soldier in this whole situation. It's a stupid movie that's literally based off of the teachings of a cult. And then you get to the ending. Once again, it's always the ending where they punch you in the mouth. Benedict Cumberbatch is in this movie too. So Doctor Strange makes an appearance in this film, and he represents, quote unquote, the white Jesus. And we get to the end here where Clarence is being crucified, the white Jesus is on the cross, and instead of, Jesus pleading for humanity, saying, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do, the white Jesus damns humanity and wants them all to die, and basically does the exact opposite that the Jesus in the Bible does. So they go so far to deny the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ, which is literally the gospel. If you guys know from my Bible Lens series, this movie is equally as blasphemous as it is racist in every stretch of the imagination. And then at the very, very end, it basically replaces Clarence as the role of Jesus Christ, because at the end, it's Clarence that gets resurrected from the dead, not Jesus. This is a stupid cult movie produced by a man who's now being accused of raping a 13-year-old girl 25 years ago and is a degenerate rapper named Jay-Z as well. I don't know anything more I can say about this film. The Book of Clarence, it's a shocker to me that this is not number one too. That's the best thing that I can say about it.
It's theologically ignorant, because I remember that they were taught that Clarence was denied entry into the apostles. He was denied being an apostle because he rejected the idea of the Immaculate Conception. Now, the Immaculate Conception is different than the virgin birth. The virgin birth is the Holy Spirit overpowering Mary. The Immaculate Conception is
the belief that Mary was sinless.
Herself. Yes,
yeah.
She was born,
which is a Catholic
sin.
belief.
Exactly. So they're confusing Catholic theology with mainstream Protestant or Christian theology. So they're even confused about that. It's just. Yeah,
and then there's like ties of like Gnosticism in there as well. As you mentioned, the stories about Jesus turning stones into bread and stuff like that. They put that in there. So it's like this is a complete perversion of every sense of the word. Like I said, this comes from the twisted minds of a perverted race cult that's taking over the city of New York, that's been prominent in the Northeast for quite some time. So it's like I said, every bit as blasphemous, stupid, and racist as you could possibly get. And that's the number 2 film of the year. So, of course, the number 1 movie of the year, and I shudder even calling this a movie, is a film called I Saw the TV Glow. This is a film that I audibly said, what the hell am I even watching, about 40 minutes into the film? Because you're sitting there and you're watching what's called a movie, right? I mean, have you guys heard of movies before? You guys know what movies are? There's things that have like, beginning, middle, and ends, and it's like, okay, it's weird. I'm watching this 30 minutes in, and I'm like, is there a plot to this movie? Like, is there something that's supposed to be happening here? Is there like a purpose to any of this? Because you just got this like chuckle fuck over here moping around for like 30 minutes, and then you have another lesbian woman who's in this movie too, and she doesn't provide anything. So you got 2 completely charismaless leads here in this movie simultaneously. And nothing is happening for the longest time. It just stretches out on and on and on to the point where it's like, what is happening here in this film? Now, here's where I made the mistake. I did not know the backstory of this film before going to watch it. I did not know that the writer and director of this movie was a trans woman. So when I found out after the fact, after watching this movie, is that this film is supposed to be an allegory to a man's transition into becoming a woman, which is why it made absolutely no freaking sense whatsoever. And even progressive critics had to come out and clarify that, oh, we want to give all the praise to the writer and director of this shitty movie, but I want to say that when I say this film is bad, I have nothing against trans people. Why would you have to come out and add that disclaimer there? Because this movie is about someone transitioning from a man to a woman. So that's why in the brain of a normal person, this makes absolutely no sense at all. Justice Smith is the worst actor in Hollywood today. There's no one who is worse than this dude. He has everyone beat by a mile. I don't care who you guys can want to throw out there. Brie Larson, Rachel Zegler. This guy is worse than all of those people combined. And then this girl, I only remember her from that rebooted Bill and Ted movie that they did a few years ago. That's literally the only time that I remember her. She's terrible in this movie, and I don't know if she's just terrible as an actress or specifically this film. And oh, by the way, Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit is also in the movie too. I can't explain why. I can't explain who thought that was a good idea. But he
why not?
Because why not, right? Like trans allegories, Limp Bizkit. Sure, that all makes sense. This like I said, I struggle to even call this a movie, and on that level alone, this has to be hands down the worst film of the year. Because all the other movies, at least they have the structure of being an actual film. This one does not, and man, this one set a new bar for me. I have to go back to every movie that I've given the top worst spot for like the last 10 years. Think to myself, is this the worst one out of all of them? And honestly, there's only like one other movie I might put above this one, and that was my worst movie from last year, Dix the Musical. That one might be worse than this, but like I said, this might be the worst film of the entire decade, and if not, there's only like one or two options you can put above it right now. This movie is absolutely awful, and this just caps off a terrible year for films. I'm not saying that all the movies were bad this year, but the movies that were really bad, and that one was one of them. So there's my list for top 10 worst movies of the year.
Just real quick, couple points. With Justice Smith, he always plays the same character. He plays Justice Smith. He doesn't play characters. He just seems to play.
He can't act.
Yeah. He's like Channing Tatum. And Harry Cavill, but at least they're better looking. It's just like he's always this kind of wimpy, cowardly figure.
Giant mangina.
Well,
beta male.
Yeah, beta, gamma, epsilon. I mean, he is the wimpiest person on
Fruit
screen.
booty.
He was wimpy in the American Society of Magical Negroes. I saw the TV Globe because you and Rob were like, no, this is terrible. But in that one and in that Jurassic Park movie or Jurassic World movie, he's the same character. He's always playing the same character. So to where I wonder if he's literally just playing himself. I mean, he's not acting. He's just being. I mean, that is how he is in real life. I mean, that's the way it makes me think. Second, I noticed that with this movie and the American Society of Magical Negroes, the writer-director seems to be basically making his or her life story into the movie. Like it's basically they're doing that.
Like, and hold on to that point just real quick. Several of the movies on my list, and I'm not even like saying that it was meant to be that way, but several of the movies on this list, you can clearly tell are essentially the writer and director writing out their own life story into the film. Like I Saw the TV Glow, Magical Society of Negroes, Babes, Drive Away Dolls, My Old Ass. It's all an element of the writer and director putting themselves into the movie and doing a movie about their life story. Guess what? You're not interesting. No one cares about your life story. And then when you put that on screen, it's even worse. And then this is why people get so emotionally invested, because when you reject the movie in their eyes, in their mind, you're rejecting them as people. And it's like, well, then stop putting yourself into the movie.
Yes, that never works. I mean, no one is interested in seeing your life story unless you have done something. I mean, that's why biopics exist, because you're chronicling the life of a person that has affected history or is well known for some reason. Even someone as innocuous as Robbie Williams, and I just saw that one last night. But with all of these stories, I saw the TV Glow and the American Society of Magical Negroes. If you're writing yourself, ask yourself, you're writing this movie and you want to make a movie basically about your life. What is it about your life that is interesting? What is it about your experience that is interesting? If you can't fictionalize it in some way, then just start from scratch. You're not that interesting. I'm sorry, nothing against the writer directors of these things, but you're not that interesting any more than I don't think people would want to see a film about my life unless something really interesting happened to me, or I did something like became mayor or something. I don't know.
These people need to take the advice that make the movie you want to see. Don't follow that advice. Okay, don't follow that advice because obviously you failed at it and have no. I mean, and that's the thing is like advice that's good for most people. You take these fucking weirdos and look, I don't care what people do in their private lives, but the beliefs that they're projecting out there in public, speaking to whatever. It's like, yeah, you live in a fucking echo chamber. Asshole. You live in a fucking echo chamber. Nobody cares about your weird point of view. And here's the thing about cinema. As much as I might hate it sometimes, okay, what it's really about is connecting an audience to your vision of storytelling. And as much as I think audiences are fucking stupid, you still have to give them something, some kind of personality, some kind of character, something to surprise them and say, I'm going to remember this. What is memorable about I Saw the TV Glow? There's nothing to take away from it at all other than the person who made it has no personality.
Yes, I mean, remember, how much I get mocked for always asking who's the target audience. If the target audience is one, yourself, the writer director, that's not enough of a target audience to want to invest and make this movie. So there, always remember who's your target audience. I don't know that many biracial black people who are wimpy and just want to have their lives chronicled.
I was just watching The Other Guys right before we did this and just keep thinking about that guy saying about Derek Jeter. He's a biracial angel. And I just remember hearing that for the first time in 2010. I'm like, I had no idea he was not completely white. So there you go. And on that note, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. This is just bad. Any final thoughts here about some of the movies that were on our list? Like, I know those are all glowing endorsements that you guys want to go race out and go see these movies on your own time. But any final thoughts here before we wrap things up?
So
I was just thinking, I'm just so glad I didn't see any of this.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't actually see it from start to finish. I wasn't feeling well, and I was just like, whatever. Let me put on the Magical Society or whatever, the Society of Magical Negroes.
Negro movie.
I had to turn it off after 15 minutes because it just felt like the movie was shouting at me, and I was like, okay, whatever this is. And I didn't see Borderlands. I didn't see Babes. I mean, there's movies on your list that I just didn't see, but if I had, I definitely would have made a top 30 worst movies of the year. So, and this is what I'm saying. Like, I think I watch everything or watch most stuff that comes out. No, Jacob really does watch everything because there's just some stuff I won't, and maybe it's the buildup of bad movies where I just can't take it anymore for that short period of time. So, but it was a terrible year. 2024 was as bad as any year in the last decade.
Yes, I mean, think about some of the films that are being touted as Best Picture winners. We've mentioned one of them constantly, and that is like almost a front runner. Rob mentioned Conclave, which I thought was not a good movie, but that one's also being touted for Best Picture. A lot of the movies
let's be honest here. Notice how a lot of these movies, especially the ones for this year, all have some kind of inkling to the trans community, deeply embedded in them, and that's why they're getting all the award nominations. That's why Conclave is getting praise. That's why Emilia Perez is getting praise. People say, well, Wicked doesn't have any of that. Well, Wicked was pandering specifically to that community. That's why it's also getting the praise that it's getting too.
I can't say it's deliberate. I can say that perhaps they're responding to that diversity and inclusion requirement that you have to have a certain number of cast and crew to qualify for Best Picture, which is why Madam Web cannot be Best Picture. I guess they didn't have enough minorities in the film.
Wasn't Craven worse than Madam Web though? Like,
yes. Craven was worse.
I would say Craven is the best of the Sony movies that came out this year because it was Craven, Venom 3, and Madam Web. All three of them should be on everyone's worst list, but to me, it was Madam Web was the worst, Then it was Venom 3, and then Craven was the best out of the three, but it wasn't good either. So
Well, actually, I would have probably put Madam Web as the best because at least that one was bad, but entertainingly bad. Craven was somewhere in the middle, and I just hated Venom. That one made my 10 worse. It you just make a movie that appeals to the widest audience. People 10 years from now, they're not going to go see Conclave. They're certainly not going to see Emilia Perez. They're not going to see a lot of the best picture front runners. It's just a puzzle to me. Wicked, I don't know, maybe a certain segment of the population is going to watch that, and I certainly like the production design and costuming, but it's none of these movies are like really impactful or powerful, and I'm not going to go and revisit them. It's like the same way that I revisit like The Godfathers or Casablanca, All About Eve. Those have stood the test of time. None of these films that are up for Best Picture, though to be fair, I've not seen Anora. None of these are going to be up there. And I think if they pick a complete unknown, I would rather pick that than any of the other front runners because at least that one was interesting and it looked like an actual movie and I didn't notice the length. But this has been bad. This has been a really bad year. So many films that I could have left off.
And even something like The Brutalist, which is technically very well made. I mean, it's basically be an immigrant, come to America, get hooked on heroin, get raped, and this is America. Like I'm sorry. I know it's a little bit more nuanced than that because it is an art film. I think Adrian Brody gives a good performance, but even that movie, it's like, okay, there's nothing here to hold on to. It's just misery, And so even something where a movie that I should probably get behind in terms of technical filmmaking and how it looks and you know what I mean? It's very artistically pleasing to the eye.
yeah.
Ooh, it is a miserable movie. And I love Blonde. Okay, Blonde is a fucking miserable movie, but it attempted to say something at least in favor of Marilyn Monroe. Like she was, yes, she put herself here, but she had to deal with a lot of shit.
And the curious thing about The Brutalist is that for a long time I thought that was describing the character. No, that's describing his architectural style.
Well,
both.
Both. It's not really his style. The Brutalist more, I think, is talking about Guy Pearce's character. Like, man, he works with and for, who turns into a real piece of shit.
I know brutalism.
Yes,
it's absolutely hideous architecture.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I mean, really, people are not going to want to. I don't know. I have not seen it. It's not
3.5 hours. I forgot of that.
Yeah. I have not seen it. It's not playing here in El Paso yet. It probably will get a wider release, but I can't imagine that people are going to revisit this 3.5 hour exercise in misery in the same way that they're going to revisit something like Lawrence of Arabia or Gone with the Wind. Probably longer films, but which are better, I imagine.
Yeah, I don't really see the replay. I mean, then again, like I said, 3.5 hours is a long shot to get through people. I'm not saying that a movie being 3.5 hours is bad. Like I said, the last movie that the long one that we gave the credit to was The Irishman, and that was on Netflix. It was 3.5 hours long. Now, obviously, on Netflix, it's a lot more digestible because you could stop it if you need to take a break or like whatnot, rather than like 3.5 hours straight shot. But that movie was still good, and it was a long one too. So.
Yeah, I went to see it actually at the Seattle Cinerama before they closed permanently because of COVID. But and so that was a cool thing. But yeah, I did see The Irishman in the theater. But I saw Oppenheimer last year, which is 3 hours. I saw Killers of the Flower Moon, which another Scorsese 3.5 hour movie. So it just depends on what it is at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, people in the end, they want to see a movie where they're not miserable, and I'm concerned for the Brutalist. If it is this exercise in just misery and just, I mean, who wants to really indulge in that? It might win Best Picture. I have not seen it. I'm kind of pulling for Timothy Chalamet because I liked his Bob Dylan, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. The announcements I think have been delayed because of the fires for the Academy Awards. So we'll see what happens.
Yep. So that's it. That's our lovely list of 2024 films. And honestly, that's the end of the movie club. The movie club's officially closed after episode 100. So what are we doing with movies now? Does that mean that we're not going to review movies anymore? No, not particularly. So we'll still review movies occasionally on the bar room, but starting on February the 1st, which is a Saturday, I'm going to be starting a new show called The Movie House. And The Movie House is going to basically be a group of people coming together, talking about more extensively movie news. We got trailers to talk about. We'll even do occasionally some reviews too. Also want to go back and do some retro stuff too. And I think that this show will give us an avenue to talk about films that we actually do enjoy, not just the misery of like current modern movies that we have to sit through as well. So I'm actually trying to bring a little bit more happiness to our life, Sarah, by having us do some more films here. So February 1st, it'll be a Saturday afternoon show, and I think we're going to start doing it bi-weekly, so it won't be every Saturday night, but basically every 2 weeks we'll get together and we'll talk about movie stuff. I'll give you guys more details about how the show is going to work in the coming weeks once everything's laid out. So till then, that'll be it. So I'll go ahead and give you guys the floor here, tell you what you guys got coming up. We'll start here with Rob.
Yeah, so I'm just getting started with the new year. I think I've watched 25 movies already for 2025. So good start there. Today is my 36th birthday, so there you go. As always, you can follow me over on my Twitter. It is below me there, Rob Motto on X. It's X, Twitter, whatever. But yeah, I don't have a whole lot planned in the forefront of my mind right now for the year, but just I want to get back to writing more consistently, writing reviews that aren't, just letterboxed blurbs. So I want to do that. I just have a lot on my plate right now with medical coding and trying to pass my life and health insurance exam and all that fun stuff in my private life. But yeah, starting to make money. So that's good. Anyway, follow me on my Twitter. I'm always talking about movies or trying to rile someone up. So take it easy.
All right. Rick, what are your thoughts?
All right. Well, it's been fun. I've enjoyed it. And happy birthday, Roberto. Cantanker is controversial, but always delightful to hear from you. So what I've got coming up, I've got upcoming review on Better Man, the Robbie Williams story. I'm also going to work on a brief Jurassic Park retrospective covering the movies before we're going to get another Jurassic World movie, and more reviews. Fortunately, I got someone to hide me in their attic for the next 4 years, so that's a plus. And yeah, that's just more reviews, and we've got the upcoming awards for my organization, the Online Film Critics Society. That should be coming up soon, and then we'll be voting on that. So hopefully some of my suggestions will go through. I'm really hoping that they'll listen to me and not for Emilia Perez, but we'll see. Thank you, everyone. It's been fun. Happy birthday, Rob. Take care.
All right. Iron. You sat through here listening to us talk about bad movies for a little bit, but what are you working on?
Time.
Don't you have
I'm working on my microphone. I'm trying
priority
to get my
number one
fixed first and foremost. But you can check out the Weekly Rogues Gallery every Friday at 5:35 PST over on my channel. And I don't think I have anything else really coming up other than that. But follow me on Twitter, and I give updates, and I pop on other people's show like this every chance I get.
All right. Sarah, I know you don't have any YouTube stuff to promote here, but don't you have anything going on that you want people to know about? Maybe they can buy tickets to?
No, not really. I'm
Well,
rehearsing to be Grandmama in the Addams Family. So if you're in Raleigh in April, you can come see that. I've been working on my novels mostly recently, but I was just thinking, I was like, when I write reviews for movies, it's like studying the stories. So maybe I should get back into that so that it'll help me write. So, but I'm on Twitter a little bit, so follow me and we'll see what happens.
All right. And then you guys know what I got coming up here. So what we got on tomorrow night will be the Bible Lens. Tiny's gonna be back with us talking about biblical prophecy. We'll be doing that one tomorrow night show. Monday we won't have a show. Tuesday we'll be back for the bar room again. Friday I'm gonna be with Nerdigans. We're gonna kind of catch up on our retro wave show that we were doing the last few weeks, going back into the Pokemon manga, which I'm pretty sure is gonna make her very, very happy. So we'll do that on Friday night. Like I said, the next first episode of the Movie House will be February the 1st, which is Saturday. So you can look forward to that here in a couple of weeks as well. And then inside of then, apparently I got the entire pro wrestling world upset at me too for daring to defend Hulk Hogan over the last couple of days. So a lot of very, very angry people on the internet. But then again, there are a lot of people who have reached out to me saying that, yeah, we don't like these people either. And it's like, good, because I don't like them either. So you can go follow me over there too. And that's pretty much all that I got coming up here. Any more things we'll have for you? Oh, by the way, Bounding in the Comics. Go check out Bounding in the Comics, the YouTube. I got a new episode of the 511 show that'll be coming up on the YouTube side of things. I still have my worst list to do over on that side as well, and a few other articles to do. So I'm working on content all over the place. I'll be everywhere for the next few days. So for that, I have to go ahead and say thank you to everyone who joined us here tonight. Thank you for Comics Division for joining us here talking about his worst movies of the year. And I guess this is the part where we all sign off and get out of here. So I'm going to go in with the old intro, outro, I should say, because it is episode 100. So let's go. Adios, good night, and goodbye.
It's over. Go home.
Get the hell out! Get out! Get out! Get out!
Okay.
Get out! Get out!
You get the hell out!
Never mind who you thought I was. I'm Rick James, bitch.